The third time my son called me Ruth, I knew it wasn't an accident. Aaron stood at the end of the private dining room with one hand curled around a microphone he didn't need. There were only 31 people in the room, and half of them had heard me give instructions through 2 walls and a running centrifuge. Ruth taught me that showing up is more important than saying the perfect thing, he said. He looked straight at me when he said it. Across the table, my friend Lorraine stopped cutting her chicken. Beside Aaron, his wife, Lena, lowered her wine glass without drinking. Celia sat on his other side in a dark blue dress, her fingertips resting against the base of her water glass. Aaron went on. When my father married Ruth, he gave our family something it had been missing: stability. There are words that hurt because they're cruel. Then there are words that hurt because they've been measured, polished, and placed exactly where someone wants them. My son had called me Mom for 34 years. That night, he gave a 7-minute tribute to me without saying it once. I smiled anyway. That was muscle memory. Aaron had spent weeks telling me not to interfere with the dinner. I wasn't allowed to see the guest list, choose the menu, or call the restaurant to make sure they had remembered Lorraine's allergy to walnuts. "This is your retirement, Mom," he'd said. "For once, let somebody else take care of things." He had said Mom then. At the restaurant, I discovered that letting other people take care of things meant the place cards were arranged alphabetically. So I was seated between Dr. Bhandari, who had once thrown a stapler at a printer, and Celia Mercer, who had not spoken to me in 11 years. Celia arrived 10 minutes after I did. Aaron came through the door with his palm pressed lightly against the middle of her back, as if he were guiding someone across ice. She was smaller than I remembered. Her silver hair fell to her shoulders in a smooth sheet, and she wore lipstick the color of brick. For years, when I pictured her, I pictured the photograph Aaron kept in his college dorm room. Celia, at 26, laughing into the wind, one hand holding down a wide straw hat. The woman entering the restaurant had the same sharp cheekbones, but she moved carefully now. Aaron kissed my cheek. "Surprise," he said. "There are surprises that come with candles. There are surprises you seat between the retiree and the breadbasket." "Celia," I said. "Ruth." She reached for me, hesitated, then opened both arms. I let her hug me. Her perfume smelled faintly of oranges. "You look wonderful," she said. "So do you." We were both lying, though not maliciously. We looked like 2 women who had spent an hour deciding what version of themselves could survive the evening. Lena appeared behind Aaron and gave me an apologetic little smile. "You didn't tell her?" she asked him. Aaron's jaw tightened for half a second. "I wanted it to be special." "Well," I said, taking off my coat, "it certainly has a quality." Lena coughed into her hand. Celia almost smiled. That tiny almost smile made me feel better. Then Aaron glanced at her, and it disappeared. The room had been decorated with silver balloons and photographs from my years at St. Gabriel Medical Center. In one, I was 36 and wearing safety goggles large enough to serve as windshields. In another, I stood beside a machine we'd spent 9 months begging the board to replace. Someone had written "finally" beneath it in gold marker. My co-workers had made a display on a side table. There was my old white lab coat, framed, although I had worn Navy scrubs for the last 15 years. There was a plastic rack of empty blood tubes with silk flowers stuck in them. There was a cake decorated to look like a microscope, which was impressive until Dr. Bhandari pointed out that the objective lenses were backward. "Don't ruin cake with accuracy," Lorraine told him. "Accuracy is literally what we do. Not tonight. Tonight we eat the evidence." I laughed, and for a while the evening settled into something I could manage. I had worked at St. Gabriel for 32 years, most of them on the evening shift. I knew which emergency room doctor would call the lab 5 minutes after sending a sample, and which nurse brought us coffee when the pneumatic tube system jammed. I knew that Lorraine kept antacids in a specimen cup labeled "Expectations," and that Ben Ortiz sang Motown whenever he was frightened. Retirement gifts came in a steady stream: a fountain pen, a framed photograph of the night crew, a basket containing 6 kinds of tea, although I had been drinking the same burnt coffee every night since 1998. You can develop hobbies now, Ben said. I have hobbies. Correcting people isn't a hobby. It is if you enjoy it. Aaron laughed from across the table. For one easy second, our eyes met, and he looked like himself again. Then he turned to Celia and said something near her ear. I'd known they were speaking. Aaron told me 6 months earlier that Celia had contacted him after she moved back to Ohio. He'd said it casually while standing in my kitchen and eating the crisp skin off the chicken before I carved it. She sent me a message, he'd said. I kept the knife moving through the breast meat. And we've talked a little. That's good. He looked at me then, suspicious of how easily I had said it. You think it's good? I think you wanted answers for a long time. That doesn't mean I'm replacing anybody. I didn't say it did. You got quiet. I'm cutting a chicken, Aaron. It's thoughtful work. He laughed and stole another piece of skin. I slapped his hand with the flat side of the knife, the same way I had when he was 20 and came home from college with an appetite large enough to qualify for federal assistance. After that, Celia's name entered our conversations in careful drops. She lived in Dayton. She volunteered at a botanical garden. She had been married twice after Daniel, both marriages over now. She liked mystery novels but always read the last page first. That explains a lot, I'd said. Aaron didn't laugh. I never told him not to see her. I never asked what they discussed. I certainly never expected gratitude for allowing a 43-year-old man to choose whom he met for coffee. But I had expected him to tell me she was coming to my retirement dinner. At the table, Celia leaned toward me while the servers cleared the plates. Aaron says you're thinking about traveling, she said. I'm thinking about traveling. Anywhere in particular? Somewhere nobody knows how to reach me. That sounds less like travel and more like witness protection. This time she did smile. I went to Santa Fe last spring, she said. By myself. First trip I ever took alone. How was it? Terrifying. Then expensive. Then wonderful. Sounds like marriage in the wrong order. She laughed loudly enough that Aaron turned toward us. What are you two talking about? He asked. Witness protection, Celia said. His expression changed. Not much. Just enough to make me realize he didn't like us having a joke he hadn't arranged. Lena noticed too. She picked up her wine glass and studied it. I began to wonder how this reunion had been presented to Celia. Maybe Aaron had told her I was anxious. Maybe he'd told her I felt threatened. He had always liked to prepare people for one another, which often meant handing each person a slightly altered map. When Aaron was 29, he invited Daniel and me to dinner after his engagement ended. He told us Lena, who was only a friend then, might stop by. He told Lena we were worried he was drinking too much. He told Daniel the whole evening was my idea. By dessert, 4 adults were sitting around a cheesecake nobody wanted, each wondering why the other 3 were acting so strangely. You like to manage the emotional weather, I told him afterward. You make me sound manipulative. No. Manipulative people are usually better at it. He didn't speak to me for 2 days. Then he called to ask how long cooked shrimp kept in the refrigerator. At my retirement dinner, he tapped the side of his glass with a spoon. Someone handed him the microphone from the small karaoke machine the restaurant used for private events. For the hearing impaired, he said. I can hear you, Lorraine called. That was not aimed at you. Everything's aimed at me eventually. People settled. Phones appeared. Ben started recording from the wrong angle until Lena quietly turned his wrist. Aaron looked handsome in the charcoal jacket I had given him for his birthday. Daniel had owned a jacket that same color. From certain angles, especially when Aaron was tired, the resemblance could still catch me under the ribs. I was trying to figure out what to say about Ruth, he began. That was the first one. I felt it, but I let it pass. People use names in speeches. Names make things sound formal. He spoke about the laboratory and the thousands of patients who would never know mine. He talked about the winter storm when I slept at the hospital for 2 nights because half the staff couldn't get through. He told the story of me catching a mislabeled sample 15 minutes before a surgeon made a terrible decision. Then he shifted to our family. Ruth brought order to my father's life, he said. She brought patience to mine. The second one. He described the summer I drove 6 hours to help him move out of an apartment after his roommate vanished with half the rent. He mentioned the terrible green bean casserole I made the first Thanksgiving after Daniel died. It was terrible, I said. People laughed. Erin smiled at me, grateful for the rescue. She admits it, he said. That's growth. Then came the third Ruth, then the fourth. With each one, I waited for the sentence that would correct the rest. I waited for him to say, "She wasn't just my father's wife. She was my mother." Instead, he ended by raising his glass. To Ruth Carver, who showed me that family can be built by the people who choose to stay. The room went quiet for one beat too long. Then glasses lifted. Chairs shifted. Someone near the wall said, "To Ruth." I raised my own glass because all those people were looking at me, and because Celia was staring down at the tablecloth like she wanted to disappear beneath it. Erin came over and bent to hug me. "Did I embarrass you?" he whispered, almost laughing. I could have asked him then. I could have held his shoulders and made him look at me. Instead, I kissed his cheek. "You gave quite a speech," I said. His smile faltered, but only for a moment. On my way home, I placed the framed photograph of the night crew on the passenger seat and buckled it in. The white lab coat lay across the back. At a red light, my phone lit up with a message from Erin. "Great night. Love you. Sunday dinner at 6?" I read it twice. Then I put the phone face down and drove home without answering. The house was dark when I pulled into the driveway. I left the headlights on long enough to unlock the front door, a habit Daniel used to tease me about. "You know there's a porch light," he would say, "and you know porch lights burn electricity. We have entered the Depression, apparently. We never left. You just got cable." I carried the framed photograph inside first. 37 members of the laboratory staff grinned out from behind the glass, some with their eyes closed, some turned toward whoever had spoken just before the picture was taken. I stood in the center, holding a sheet cake. Lorraine had her hand on my shoulder. Ben was behind me making rabbit ears. I set it on the dining room table and went back for the lab coat. One silver balloon had somehow followed me home. Its ribbon was tangled around the hanger and it bobbed above my shoulder as I came through the door. I tried to untie it. The knot tightened. I found the kitchen scissors and cut the ribbon. The balloon drifted to the ceiling. "Perfect," I told it. I put the coat over the back of a chair and opened the refrigerator. There was a container of chicken soup, half a lemon, 3 eggs, and enough vegetables to feed 6 people because I had planned to make Sunday dinner. Erin liked the roasted carrots. Lena claimed she didn't, but she always took seconds when she thought no one was watching. I closed the refrigerator. My phone was still face down in my purse. I took it out, read Erin's message again, and set it on the counter without answering. "Great night. Love you." Sunday dinner at 6? The strangest part was the casualness. He had put me back into position before I'd even reached home. The speech was finished. Celia had been honored by the omission. I had smiled. Now I could roast carrots. I carried the photograph into the living room and leaned it against the bookcase beneath a picture of Daniel. In that one, he was 58, standing beside Lake Erie with his hands shoved into the pockets of a windbreaker he hated. He had lost his sunglasses 10 minutes before the picture was taken and blamed the gulls. I sat on the couch. "All right," I said to him. "What would you have done?" Daniel's photograph maintained the discretion of the dead. He had been good at that even when he was alive. If Erin and I argued, Daniel listened with the solemn expression of a judge and then offered an opinion so carefully balanced that both of us wanted to throw something at him. "I see your point," he would tell Erin. Then he would turn to me. "And I see yours." "Terrific," I'd say. "Maybe you can see yourself sleeping in the den." Still, I wanted him there. I wanted to ask whether Erin would have given that speech if his father had been sitting beside me. I wanted to know whether Daniel would have laughed at my wounded pride or put down his fork and said, "That's enough." Mostly, I wanted him to tell me whether I was making too much of it. At 1 in the morning, I changed out of my dinner clothes and hung the blue blouse in the closet. Daniel's side had been empty for 6 years, but I still used only 3/4 of the rod. I slept badly and woke at 7:14 to the silver balloon moving along the bedroom ceiling. It had traveled upstairs during the night and was hovering above the door like an extremely cheerful ghost. My phone rang at 8. Aaron. I watched his name pulse across the screen until it stopped. 30 seconds later, it rang again. I answered. "Are you all right?" he asked. "Good morning to you, too. You didn't answer my text. I was asleep. For 12 hours? I'm retired. Maybe this is who I am now." He exhaled, not quite a laugh. "Did you have a good time?" "Did you?" I asked first. "You organized it. You had better have had a good time." "Mom," there it was, easy as breath. He didn't notice what he had done. I sat up against the headboard. "What did you call me?" There was a pause. "What?" "Just now." He was quiet long enough to tell me he understood. "Can we not do this first thing in the morning? You called me Mom." "Because you are, not last night." "Ruth." I laughed once. I couldn't help it. "What?" he said. "You did it again." "Because I'm talking to you. You were talking about me last night. I gave a 7-minute speech about how important you are to me. You gave a 7-minute speech about Ruth, your father's wife." "That's not what I said." "It was one of the things you said. It was factually true. So is my blood type. You left that out." He sighed. I could hear a cabinet door close on his end. Aaron was an aggressive coffee maker. Every cup sounded like a renovation. "I knew you were going to focus on one phrase," he said. "It wasn't one phrase? Fine. One word. One missing word. You know what I meant. I know what you chose." Another cabinet opened. This one closed harder. "Celia was sitting right there," he said. "Yes, I noticed. I was trying to be sensitive. To her. To everybody." "Did Lena ask you to call me Ruth?" "Leave Lena out of it." "Did Celia?" "That's not the point. It's very close to the point." He said nothing. I got out of bed and carried the phone into the hall. The balloon followed the air current, bumping softly against the ceiling behind me. Aaron's voice changed. It became slower, patient. It was the voice he used when he thought I was being unreasonable in a way he might later describe to someone else. "Celia has missed a lot," he said. "She has. She walked into a room full of people who know you and love you, people who have heard about you my whole life. Do you have any idea how intimidating that was for her? I imagine it was difficult. I wanted her to feel like she had a place. So you removed mine. I didn't remove anything. You couldn't give her a place without changing my name? It was a retirement speech, not a family census. Then why did you make the change at all?" He went quiet again. Downstairs, the heat came on. The vent beneath the hall table clicked 3 times. Daniel used to swear he was going to fix it. "I thought it would be kinder," Aaron said. There it was. Not an accident, not nerves, not a phrase I had misunderstood. Kinder. I leaned against the wall. "To whom?" I asked. "I just told you." "Yes, you did. Don't turn this into something ugly. You made a choice, Aaron." I asked why. "I was trying to make one night easier for a woman who has spent most of her life knowing somebody else took her place." I closed my eyes. "I didn't take anything from her." "I didn't say you did. You invited her to my retirement dinner without warning me. You seated her beside me. Then you introduced me to my own friends as your father's wife so she wouldn't feel replaced, and now I'm making it ugly? That is not fair. No, it isn't. I meant your description. I know what you meant." The conversation stopped. Neither of us hung up. Outside, a truck rattled past. Someone had left a newspaper at the wrong house, and it lay in the middle of my front walk inside a blue plastic sleeve. I watched it through the upstairs window. Aaron cleared his throat. So are we still doing dinner tomorrow? I looked down at the phone. No. Because of this? Because I don't feel like hosting dinner, but we planned it. You asked in a text I didn't answer. We do Sunday dinner every week. Not this week. Celia leaves Monday morning. I waited. I wanted her to see how we do things, he added. How who does things? Our family. You want me to cook a family dinner so she can feel like your mother after you stood in front of everyone I know and made sure I did not. That's not what this is. What is it? It's dinner. Then you cook it. He made a sound somewhere between a scoff and a cough. At our place? If that is where your kitchen is, you know our dining table seats 4 if nobody breathes. Open a window. Very funny. I thought so. He paced when he was angry. I could hear the change in his breathing and the dull shift of his footsteps. Lena already bought wine, he said. Wine keeps. I told Celia you make Dad's rosemary chicken. Aaron, what? I'm not making dinner. So you're punishing her. No. She'll think she did something. Then tell her the truth. Which version would that be? The one where I don't want company. You don't mean that. I went downstairs. The lab coat still hung from the chair. The flowers in the blood tubes had tilted overnight, pink silk petals resting against the table. You keep telling me what I mean, I said, because I know you. You're hurt, and you want me to know you're hurt. I believe you know. Then what do you want me to do? Say the word now. I've already said it 3 times this morning. That seems to prove it isn't difficult. I'm not ashamed of you. I didn't say you were. What are you saying? I opened the refrigerator. The carrots sat in their plastic bag waiting for instructions. I'm saying there will be no dinner tomorrow. I ended the call before he could turn that sentence into a different one. My hands were shaking. I put them flat on the counter until they stopped. 5 minutes later, Lena texted, I'm sorry. I read it, then put the phone beside the sink. She didn't say what she was sorry for. The speech? Celia's surprise appearance? Aaron's mood that morning? In our family, apologies often arrived without return addresses. I made toast and burned it. I scraped the black part into the sink, spread butter over what remained, and ate standing up. By 10, I had received 2 more messages from Aaron. This is getting out of proportion. Then, please don't make me regret trying to do something nice for you. That one nearly worked. I began typing. I wrote 3 sentences, erased them, wrote 6 more, and erased those too. Finally, I turned off the phone. The day stretched open in front of me with nothing in it. For 32 years, Saturdays had been recovery days. I slept late, did laundry, bought groceries, and tried to shift my body from the hospital's evening rhythm into the family's daytime one. Now there was no shift to return to and no dinner to prepare. At noon, I went to the grocery store anyway. I pushed a cart past towers of canned tomatoes and pyramids of onions. Without thinking, I picked up 2 whole chickens. Then I stood there holding them while a man in a Cleveland Browns jacket waited politely for me to move. Sorry, I said. No problem. I put 1 chicken back. Then I put the other back too. I bought yogurt, coffee, a loaf of bread, and 1 pear. The cart looked like it belonged to someone passing through town. At home, a glass casserole dish sat on the porch. Aaron must have dropped it off while I was gone. It was mine, the rectangular one with the blue lid. Inside was a folded note. Didn't want to interrupt your solitude. I carried the dish into the kitchen and left it on the counter. Sunday evening, at 6:10, my doorbell rang. Through the glass, I could see Aaron standing on the porch with his hands in his coat pockets. He was alone. I considered not answering. Then he looked toward the driveway, and for an instant his face reminded me so much of Daniel. That habit overruled judgment. I opened the door. You canceled dinner, he said. I remember. Can I come in? I'm not cooking. I didn't ask if you were cooking. You didn't have to. He stepped past me, bringing cold air into the hallway. His eyes went straight to the dining room, to the empty table and the lab coat still draped over the chair. What did you eat? He asked. Food. That pear? I looked at the fruit bowl. The pear sat alone in the center. I bought other things. He took off his coat. but didn't hang it up. Celia thinks you hate her. I barely know her. That isn't a no. No, I don't hate her. Then call her. What would you like me to say? That this isn't about her, but it is partly about her. His mouth tightened. I went into the kitchen. Aaron followed. I'm trying to fix this, he said. No, you're trying to get me to make Celia feel better so you don't have to explain what you did. I gave a speech you didn't like. You made a decision I wasn't supposed to object to. You're really going to punish all of us over a word? I looked at my son. He looked tired, angry, and completely certain I would eventually make the evening easier for him. No, I said. I'm listening to it. Aaron stared at me as if I'd answered in a language he almost understood. What does that mean? He asked. It means I'm taking you at your word. I told you what I meant. No, you told me why you did it. Same thing. They're not even cousins. He pulled out one of the kitchen chairs and sat down. My lab coat brushed his shoulder. He pushed it aside, and the silver balloon, still roaming the house, bumped into the doorway above him. You're acting like I stood up there and denounced you, he said. You stood up there and described a mother in every possible way, except by calling her one. Because calling you Mom in front of Celia would have been painful for her. But not calling me Mom in front of her wasn't supposed to be painful for me. I thought you would understand. I opened the cabinet and took out a glass. He watched me fill it at the sink. That's the part you keep skipping, I said. You decided I was the person who could be hurt safely. I didn't think you'd be hurt. You asked Lena, didn't you? His expression changed. It wasn't guilt exactly. It was the face he made when he discovered I had reached a conclusion ahead of schedule. What does Lena have to do with this? She texted me that she was sorry. Aaron leaned back. She had no right to drag herself into it. She used 4 words. She always does this. She waits until I've had a disagreement with someone, and then she quietly joins the other side. Did she read the speech? His jaw worked. I set the glass down. Aaron. I showed it to her. And what did she say? She said there was a chance you might misunderstand it. Misunderstand? That was her word. It was not Lena's word. Lena was direct when she was nervous and indirect when she was afraid. If she had read that speech, she would not have said, I might misunderstand. She would have said, your mother is going to notice. What did she actually say? He stood up. I didn't come here to put my wife on trial. You came here to put me back to work. That's ridiculous. You wanted dinner. Then you wanted me to call Celia and clean up the feelings created by your decision. Because you're good at talking to people. I spent 32 years explaining to surgeons why shouting did not make test results appear faster. Being good at something doesn't mean I owe it on demand. He walked to the refrigerator and opened it. Are you looking for evidence? I haven't eaten. You canceled your own dinner. You canceled it. I did not cancel your ability to feed yourself. He took out the yogurt, examined the date, and put it back. It was such an ordinary motion that something in me nearly softened. Aaron had been opening my refrigerator without asking since he was tall enough to reach the handle. Even after he and Lena bought their house, he came through my back door, lifted pot lids, and complained that I never had the good mustard. Love accumulates in the body as habit. Sometimes the habit moves before the heart has voted. I almost asked if he wanted eggs. Then he closed the refrigerator and said, Dad would have understood what I was trying to do. The softness vanished. Don't. I'm saying he knew how complicated this was. Your father knew because he lived it. He also knew the difference between kindness and cowardice. Aaron flinched. I regretted the word as soon as I said it, but I did not take it back. You think I'm a coward? I think you wanted 2 women to feel secure, and you made one of them smaller because you believed she would tolerate it. That's an elegant way of making yourself the victim. It's not elegant from where I'm standing. He picked up his coat from the hallway bench. You know, Celia was terrified to come last night, he said. Then you should have told me. She thought you wouldn't want her there. You should have asked me. I knew you'd say yes, even if you didn't mean it, so you made sure I couldn't say anything at all. He put on his coat with sharp, irritated movements. You keep framing everything in the worst possible way. And you keep arranging things, so the only acceptable response is the one you planned. He opened the door. Cold air moved around us. The silver balloon dipped in the hallway and rose again. Aaron looked at it. Why is there a balloon following you? It came home with me. Of course it did. Despite everything, I almost laughed. He almost did too. For a second, we stood there with the old ease between us, both of us knowing exactly how absurd the balloon was. Then his face closed. Call me when you're ready to talk without turning every sentence into an accusation, he said. You came to my house, and clearly that was a mistake. He left. I locked the door behind him, which was unnecessary and felt theatrical. Then I made 2 eggs and ate them at the kitchen table, while the chair across from me stayed empty. The laboratory called at 6:30 the next morning. I had been awake since 5, waiting for an alarm that was no longer set. When the phone rang, my body reacted before my mind did. I sat upright, reached for the lamp, and answered with, Carver. There was a pause. Wow, Ben said. You sound like you're about to authorize a missile strike. What happened? Nothing happened. Then why are you calling me at 6:30? I wanted to leave a voicemail. You failed. I can call back. Ben. He sighed. We can't find the key for the lower cabinet in your office. It's not my office. See, we're all trying to adjust. The key is taped beneath the second drawer of the gray filing cabinet. That is a terrible place for a key. It survived you for 9 years. He laughed. Then neither of us spoke. How was the rest of the dinner? He asked. You were there? I left after the cake. Lorraine said something happened. Lorraine always says something happened. She said Aaron's speech was weird. There it was again, that pause people left for me to fill. He worked hard on it, I said. Okay. Did you need anything else? No, just the key. After we hung up, I lay back down. The bedroom ceiling had a pale rectangle where the morning light came through the curtains. Without the hospital, I had no reason to get up. Without Sunday dinner, I had no leftovers to portion and send home with Aaron. Without Daniel, there was no one downstairs making coffee too weak and pretending it was intentional. At 8, I got out of bed because remaining there had started to feel like surrender. I showered, dressed, and drove to the dry cleaner with 2 blouses that did not need cleaning. Then I went to the pharmacy and wandered through the seasonal aisle. Valentine's Day decorations had appeared overnight. Red hearts hung from the ceiling above shelves of discounted cold medicine. I bought toothpaste, although I had an unopened tube at home. Retirement, I discovered, was expensive if you refused to sit still. Aaron did not call. Neither did I. Late Tuesday afternoon, the doorbell rang. Lena stood on the porch holding a bottle of red wine and the blue-lidded casserole dish Aaron had returned 2 days earlier. You know, that's mine, I said. She looked down at the dish. I know. I panicked. And brought it back? I needed something to do with my hands. That's what pockets are for. I didn't have the right coat. I let her in. Lena was 39. With dark curly hair she straightened for work and wore loose everywhere else. She managed purchasing for a small chain of hotels and could negotiate the price of 800 towels without blinking. Personal conflict made her organize nearby objects. Within 5 minutes, she had aligned the salt and pepper shakers and moved my mail into a neat stack. Stop cleaning my counters, I said. I'm not cleaning, I'm shifting. Shift into a chair. She sat. I put the wine on the counter. Does Aaron know you're here? No. Should he? Probably. That sounds like a problem for your house. She looked down at her hands. I read the speech, she said. I know. He told you? He accidentally told me you warned him. Lena nodded. I said you would hear every time he used your name. Did you use the word misunderstand? No. I didn't think so. I told him it sounded deliberate. He said it was deliberate. My stomach tightened even though there was nothing new in that. I had heard it in Aaron's voice. Still, hearing that he had discussed the decision beforehand gave it weight. What else did he say? That Celia had spent years feeling like she'd been replaced. That hearing him call you Mom in that room might make her feel humiliated. So, he humiliated me preemptively. I said almost exactly that. Almost? I used a different word. Better or worse? Worse. I nodded. Good. Lena gave a brief, unhappy smile. He said you would understand because you've always been secure about your place with him. Apparently, my reward for security is public demotion. I'm not defending him. No, you just sat beside him. Her eyes lifted to mine. I know. That answer took some of the force out of me. I filled the kettle and set it on the stove. Lena stood automatically. I can do that. I remain licensed to boil water. She sat again. I should have warned you Celia was coming, she said. Yes, I should have told him I wouldn't sit there while he gave that speech. Yes, I kept thinking he'd change it at the last second. Why? Because that's what people do in movies. People in movies also find parking in front of every building. The kettle began to hiss. Lena rubbed her thumb along the edge of the casserole lid. He said this was his chance to make things right with her, she said. He's been carrying around this idea that if the first few months go perfectly, they can skip everything that came before. That sounds like Aaron. He wants the reunion without anybody behaving like there was a separation. I poured water over 2 tea bags, and you went along with it. Yes. Why? She did not answer until I placed the mug in front of her. Because when Aaron thinks he's fixing something, disagreeing with him becomes proof that you want it broken. The sentence sat between us. I knew that version of my son. I had helped create it. Every time he arranged an impossible family moment, I had cooked through it, joked through it, or pulled someone aside afterward and translated his intentions into something gentler. Lena wrapped both hands around her mug. I am sorry, she said, specifically. That's better. Are you going to forgive me? Not specifically today. She nodded as if I had given her a fair delivery date. When she left, she took the casserole dish by mistake. I noticed it through the window as she reached her car. I could have opened the door and called after her. Instead, I watched her drive away with it. Lena returned the casserole dish filled with lasagna. She left it on my porch Thursday afternoon with a note taped to the lid. This is either an apology or too much ricotta. Possibly both. I ate 1 square that night and froze the rest in individual portions. That was another thing nobody told you about living alone. Food became an administrative problem. Every recipe began with 8 servings. As if solitude were a moral failure, the cookbook refused to accommodate. Aaron remained silent until Friday. He sent a message at 9:12 in the morning. Dad's birthday next Sunday. We're doing lunch here at 1. You're invited, obviously. A second message arrived before I could answer. Could you make the rosemary chicken or come early and help me do it? Daniel's birthday had never been a solemn occasion. He disliked ceremonial grief when he was alive and would have found it especially annoying afterward. The first year without him, I had set the table with our wedding china and prepared all his favorite foods. Aaron arrived carrying a bakery cake decorated with one word. Still? Still what? I asked. Still dead. Still impossible to shop for. Still wrong about the Browns. I laughed so hard I had to sit down on the kitchen floor. After that, we kept the daylight. Rosemary chicken, potatoes, a chocolate cake, and one Daniel story nobody had told before. I looked at Aaron's message. The invitation was his first contact since he walked out of my kitchen. He had moved directly from silence to menu planning, which was one of the family traditions nobody put on a calendar. I typed back, I'll come at 1. I'm not cooking. The dots appeared immediately. I've never made the chicken. You've eaten it for 20 years. That is not the same skill. I wrote out the ingredients and instructions. Butter beneath the skin, lemon in the cavity, fresh rosemary, not dried, salt more generously than he would think decent. Start at a high temperature, then lower it. Let the chicken rest before cutting, or the juice would run everywhere and Daniel's ghost would complain. Aaron answered with a thumbs up. 10 minutes later, he wrote, "Celia will be there. Just so you're not surprised." I stared at that message longer than the others. "Thank you for telling me." His reply came an hour later. "I'm trying." I almost told him that trying usually required naming what had gone wrong. Instead, I put my phone away and drove to meet Lorraine for breakfast. She had selected a diner near the hospital, then complained that it was too near the hospital. "I can see the employee garage," she said, sliding into the booth. "I feel like I'm on call." "You're never on call. I carry emotional responsibilities. You carry antacids. In a medical facility, that's practically the same thing." Lorraine had retired from the laboratory 3 years earlier and treated retirement as an elaborate act of revenge against clocks. She was late to everything, wore purple reading glasses on a beaded chain, and refused to make appointments before 11. When the server came, Lorraine ordered eggs, bacon, pancakes, and a bowl of oatmeal. "You're eating for a construction crew," I said. "I enjoy choices. You enjoy leftovers." "Also choices." I ordered coffee and toast. She waited until the server left. "So," she said, "No, I haven't asked anything. You arranged your face into a question. I've been told I have an expressive face. You have an intrusive face." She leaned across the table. "Why was Aaron's biological mother at your retirement dinner? Because he invited her, did you know?" When she walked in. Lorraine's mouth fell open. Then she closed it, perhaps remembering we were in public. "That boy," she said quietly. "He's 43. Then that middle-aged boy. He's been seeing her for a few months, and you're fine with that? I don't get a vote. That was not my question." The server returned with the coffee. I opened a packet of sugar I did not intend to use and poured half of it into the cup. "I want him to have whatever answers he needs," I said. Lorraine watched the sugar disappear. "And the speech? What about it? He didn't call you his mother. You counted too?" The whole room counted. I stirred my coffee. He was trying not to hurt Celia. "So he hurt you. Apparently I was considered sturdier." Lorraine sat back. Her anger came easily. Mine had always required permission, usually from someone else. "What did he say afterward?" she asked. "That I misunderstood." "Of course. Then that I understood too well but should have handled it better." "Also, of course." The food arrived. Lorraine attacked the bacon first. "You know what you need," she said. "If you say a cruise, I'm leaving. I was going to say something that belongs only to you." I had that. It was called employment. Employment belonged to St. Gabriel. They merely let you borrow the stress. She told me she had joined a community choir that rehearsed Tuesday evenings at a church downtown. According to Lorraine, the group accepted anyone who could distinguish a song from a fire alarm. "I don't sing," I said. "You sang at my retirement party. That was Motown. It doesn't count. You knew all the words. Everyone knows all the words." Ben didn't. Ben thinks every Motown song begins with "My girl." She slid a folded flyer across the table. I put my coffee on top of it. "That isn't a no," she said. "It's a coaster." The following Sunday, I arrived at Aaron and Lena's house at exactly 1. Smoke drifted past the kitchen window. I rang the bell. Lena opened the door wearing an oven mitt on one hand and holding a wooden spoon in the other. "Before you say anything," she began, "we know." "Know what?" "Whatever you're about to say. That your smoke detector works, especially that." The alarm had stopped, but the house smelled of scorched rosemary. Aaron stood at the stove with his jacket off and his shirt sleeves rolled. Celia was beside him, trying to scrape blackened drippings from the bottom of a roasting pan. "You said 475 degrees, he said when he saw me. "For 15 minutes. I lowered it. "When?" "Eventually." "There's your problem." Celia turned from the stove. I told him eventually wasn't a cooking term. "You see," I said, "you had supervision." She smiled, but Aaron did not. I had brought bakery rolls and a bottle of wine. I handed both to Lena. "You could still save it," Aaron said. "The chicken. The whole meal." I looked into the roasting pan. The skin was nearly black on one side and pale on the other. Aaron had put the bird in sideways, which I would not have believed possible if the evidence had not been smoking in front of me. "Cover the dark side with foil," I said. "Turn the pan. Give it 20 minutes at 350. He handed me the oven mitt. I didn't take it. "Aren't you going to check the temperature? You own a thermometer. You know where to put it. In the chicken." Lena made a strangled sound and turned it into a cough. Aaron's mouth tightened, but he pushed the thermometer into the thickest part of the thigh. "Not against the bone," I said. "I know. You're against the bone." I said, "I know." Celia reached over and adjusted it. "There," she said. "Now everybody remain calm. We're all behaving like the bird has legal representation." Aaron laughed despite himself. He covered the chicken with foil and put it back into the oven. I sat at the small dining table while the three of them worked around one another in the kitchen. Nobody asked me to move, chop, stir, or find anything. I had wanted that. It felt terrible. On the wall behind me hung a photograph of Daniel and Aaron at a baseball game. Daniel had mustard on his shirt. Aaron was laughing at him, one hand lifted as if the camera had caught him in the middle of an insult. Celia came to the table and sat across from me. "He always hated mustard," she said, looking at the photograph. "He claimed he did. He ate it when he was nervous." I turned toward her. "Daniel?" "On our first date, he ordered a hot dog with mustard, then spent the entire meal telling me he normally used ketchup. That sounds like him. He talked for 20 minutes about condiments. He talked for 40 years about lawn seed." She laughed. For the first time, I pictured her with Daniel rather than as the woman who had existed before me. They had been young together. There were jokes she knew that I didn't, failures she had seen before I arrived, habits whose origins belonged to her. I expected jealousy. What I felt was grief, sharp and unexpected. Daniel had contained whole rooms I had never entered, and now one of those rooms was sitting across from me wearing brick-colored lipstick. The chicken survived. The potatoes did not. Aaron had salted them 3 separate times because he kept forgetting he had already done it. We sat close around the table, knees nearly touching. The wine bottle occupied the windowsill because there was no room among the serving dishes. Aaron raised his glass. "To Dad," he said. "To Daniel," Celia said. "To the only man who could lose sunglasses at a lake and blame wildlife," I added. Lena looked confused. Aaron smiled. "The gulls," he said. "The gulls," I confirmed. We traded stories. Lena told one about Daniel trying to repair their garbage disposal and shutting off the electricity to half the house. I told the story of him attending a hospital fundraiser in 2 different shoes. Then Celia described the time he tried to impress her by taking her sailing, despite not knowing how to sail. They drifted into a row of reeds and had to be pulled out by an elderly man in a fishing boat. Aaron laughed until his face reddened. I had never heard the story. I laughed too because it was funny, because it sounded exactly like Daniel, because Celia deserved to possess memories without asking my permission. Still, when Aaron looked at her and said, "I can't believe you never told me that, Mom," my fork stopped halfway to my mouth. Nobody spoke for a second. Then Lena asked if anyone wanted more potatoes. After lunch, Aaron followed me to the front door while the others cleared the table. "You barely ate," he said. The potatoes removed the lining from my mouth. "You know what I mean." "I came. I told stories. I laughed. You sat there like a guest. I was a guest." His eyes narrowed. "You could have helped more. You invited me to lunch. You knew I was struggling. You asked for the recipe. I gave it to you. You've never made me ask before." The words came out with more hurt than anger. I put on my coat. "I know." He looked past me toward the kitchen. Celia and Lena were wrapping leftovers. "Are you going to keep doing this?" he asked. "Doing what?" "Making everything feel different." I opened the door. "It is different." Celia hurried into the hallway before I stepped outside. "Ruth," she said, "thank you for coming. Aaron said retirement has left you exhausted and you needed a break from hosting." I looked at my son. His face went still. I'm sure he did, I said. Celia glanced between us. Then she touched my sleeve. Could I call you sometime? Aaron answered before I could. That's probably not a good idea. I kept my eyes on Celia. Yes, I said, you can call me. Aaron followed me onto the porch. What are you doing? He asked quietly. Going home? You know what I mean. Behind him, Celia stood in the hallway. She had pulled her hand back from my sleeve, but she had not moved away. I said she could call me. Why? Because she asked. His voice dropped further. You two don't have a relationship. Phone calls are often how those begin. That isn't funny. It wasn't a joke. He glanced over his shoulder. Lena had stopped wrapping the chicken and was watching from the kitchen. This is exactly what I was afraid of, he said. What, specifically? You and Celia comparing versions of everything. The honesty of it surprised me. Are there multiple versions? Everybody has a version. Then yours should survive a cup of coffee. I didn't say you were getting coffee. Neither did I. Celia stepped closer. Aaron, I'm not asking your permission. He turned toward her. I'm trying to protect both of you. From what? She asked. You barely know each other. Celia's face changed. Whatever ease she had found during lunch disappeared. That has never stopped you from telling me what Ruth thinks. Aaron looked at me as if I had arranged the sentence. I put on my gloves. Thank you for lunch, I said. The chicken was memorable. I walked to my car while none of them decided whether to follow. By the time I backed out of the driveway, Aaron was still standing on the porch. Celia had gone inside. He lifted one hand, not quite a wave, then put it into his pocket. My phone rang before I reached the end of his street. I let it ring through the car speakers. Aaron's name vanished from the dashboard. 10 seconds later, he called again. Your father did the same thing, I told the empty passenger seat. Daniel never believed a problem was fully established until he had called twice. At home, I changed into an old sweater and tried to read. I made it through the same page 4 times without retaining the identity of the body in the library. Mystery novels were less satisfying when you forgot who had died. Aaron left no voicemail. At 7, he sent a message. Please don't turn Celia against me. I carried the phone into the kitchen and set it beside the fruit bowl. The pear had gone soft on one side. I should have thrown it away, but I cut around the bruise and ate the good half over the sink. Celia called Tuesday morning from a number I did not recognize. I almost ignored it because my dentist had recently become aggressive about reminding me I was due for a cleaning. Ruth? She said. Yes, it's Celia. I guessed when you didn't mention plaque. What? Nothing. There was a short silence. Lena gave me your number, she said. I hope that's all right. It is. She said if Aaron asked, I found it written on a casserole dish. That dish has become very involved in our lives. Celia laughed, then stopped as if laughter might send the wrong message. I wondered if you'd have coffee with me. Are you still in town? I changed my ticket. Because of the lunch? Because of Aaron? Because she finally had a family situation complicated enough to justify airline fees? I did not ask. We agreed to meet at the cafe inside the botanical garden where she volunteered. The place was closed to the public on Tuesdays, but Celia said she could bring in a guest. What kind of special access does a volunteer have? I asked. I'm trusted with begonias. That seems reckless. You haven't seen me water. The next afternoon, I found her waiting beneath a glass ceiling among rows of green plants. Winter pressed gray against the panes overhead, but inside the conservatory, the air was warm and damp. My glasses fogged before I reached the cafe. Celia waved from a small table near a fountain. I forgot about the humidity, she said. I can't see you. Follow my voice. That's how people fall into fountains. She handed me a paper napkin for my glasses. Without the restaurant or Aaron beside her, she looked less guarded. Her silver hair had frizzed at the ends in the damp air. She wore jeans, a green cardigan, and small gold earrings shaped like leaves. I brought you tea, she said. Thank you. I didn't know how you take coffee. Frequently. She smiled. The cafe was technically closed. Our drinks had come from a small machine in the volunteer room, and the tables around us were empty. Somewhere beyond the tropical plants, water trickled over stone. Celia rotated her cup between her hands. "I owe you an apology," she said. "All right?" She looked up, startled. Most people say I don't. Most people want to make apologies shorter. I didn't know Aaron was going to give that speech. I waited. "He told me there would be a tribute," she continued. "He said he was going to be careful with the language because the evening might be difficult for me." "Was it?" "Of course." Her answer came without self-pity. "I walked into a room full of people who knew your favorite food and what kind of pen you use," she said. "They knew stories about your work. They knew Daniel. They knew Aaron. I had to ask Lena which chair was mine. I didn't know which chair was yours either. No. But your name was on everything." She gestured toward me, then seemed to realize I was not wearing a name tag. Metaphorically, she added, "I understood." She drew a breath. "When Aaron introduced me as his mom, I liked it. The admission sat plainly between us. I liked it more than I should have," she said. "I knew what it might cost you, and for that moment, I didn't care." "That's honest. It's not flattering. Those rarely travel together." She nodded. When he started the speech, I thought he would say something like, "I've been lucky to have two mothers." It would have been generous, maybe too generous to me, but I was prepared to accept it. "You would have suffered through. I'm brave that way." I smiled despite myself. "Then he kept calling you Ruth," she said. I thought the first time was formal. By the third time, I knew. So did I. I should have said something. During the speech, after. Before I left, at lunch. Pick a failure. You didn't write it? No. But silence can be convenient. It was almost exactly what Lena had said without saying it. The fountain gurgled behind us. A volunteer in tan pants crossed a distant walkway carrying a hose. He saw Celia, lifted 2 fingers in greeting, and disappeared behind a wall of ferns. "Did you ask him not to call me Mom?" I said. "No. Did you tell him it made you uncomfortable?" I told him hearing it was hard. There it was. Not a demand, but not nothing. "When?" "About a month ago. We were having dinner. The server asked if I was his mother, and he said, 'This is my mother, Celia.' Later, I asked whether he called you Mom. And he said he did. What did you say?" I said I wished I hadn't asked. I studied her face. "Did you?" "Partly. That's not an answer. It's the one I have." She looked toward the fountain. "I was jealous," she said. "Not because you took something, because you had something. There's a difference, even if it doesn't always feel different." I took a sip of tea. It tasted faintly of cardboard and peppermint. "Aaron said you spent your life feeling replaced." Celia's eyebrows rose. "I spent my life knowing I left a place empty and someone else filled it. He doesn't describe it that way?" "No. He likes the version where things happened to me." Her voice remained quiet, but something harder moved beneath it. "He needs me to have been lost," she said. "Lost people can be found. People who make bad choices have to answer questions. I did not ask what choices. Not yet." For years, I had imagined this conversation and assigned myself the better lines. In those versions, Celia was defensive or grateful. She resented me or thanked me. I never imagined her drinking bad tea beneath a glass ceiling and refusing the easiest excuse available to her. "Why now?" I asked. "Why did I contact him?" "Yes. My second husband died last year. I'm sorry. We had been divorced for 9 years. You can still be sorry." She considered that. "He was the last person who knew me during a certain part of my life," she said. "When he died, I started thinking about all the versions of myself that existed only in other people's memories. Aaron had a version. Daniel had one. You had one, even though we hardly knew each other. My version was not generous. I didn't earn generosity. That didn't stop me from being wrong about things. Such as?" I looked at the green leaves trembling above the fountain. "I thought you stayed away because it was easier. Sometimes it was. Again, no excuse. But mostly, she said, I kept waiting until I could return as someone who made sense. Years passed. Then more years made less sense. And Aaron? He wants to make sense of me very quickly. He likes efficiency. He tells me what I felt before I've finished telling him what happened. That also sounds familiar. Celia leaned back. He talks about you constantly. I did not respond. He told me you supported us reconnecting, she said. He said you'd always been confident that you were the one who raised him and I was the one who gave birth to him. I never divided it that neatly. I suspected. He told me you were afraid I'd reject you. I was. He told me you needed that dinner to feel welcomed into the family. I wanted to come. I did not know it was supposed to accomplish so much. We sat with that. Aaron had not exactly lied. He had taken partial truths, arranged them into matching pieces, and cut away whatever prevented them from fitting. I don't want your place, Celia said. Good, it's currently under renovation. She laughed, then covered her mouth. I also don't want to pretend I don't want any place. That would be another kind of lie. Yes. She looked relieved that I had said it. We walked through the conservatory after coffee. Celia showed me the begonias under her care. Several looked healthy. One looked as though it had received disappointing news. That one's dramatic, she said. I know people like that. At the exit, she touched my arm. Are you going to tell Aaron we met? He'll find out. He asked me not to call you, I assumed. I told him I was an adult. How did he take it? Personally. Outside, the cold struck hard after the tropical air. My phone rang inside my purse. Aaron. Celia saw the name when I pulled it out. He found out, she said. That was fast. I texted him from the bathroom. I looked at her. You could have mentioned that. I'm trying honesty in manageable portions. The phone stopped, then began ringing again. I silenced it. Celia and I stood beneath the bare branches outside the conservatory, both of us looking at the dark screen in my hand. You know what frightens him most? She said. That we'll compare notes? That neither of us will need him to translate the other. A voicemail notification appeared. I put the phone back into my purse. For once, I decided to hear my son's explanation when I was ready, not when he had prepared it. I listened to the voicemail in the parking lot. Aaron had used his work voice, the one polished smooth for clients and insurance representatives. Call me when you get this. I'm not angry. I just wish you had talked to me before meeting with Celia. There are parts of her history you don't know, and I don't want either of you getting hurt because you're trying to prove a point. He wasn't angry. He simply sounded like a man dictating instructions while being chased. The second voicemail was 17 seconds long. I also don't appreciate you ignoring my calls. The third was from my dentist. I drove home with the radio off. A paper cup rolled beneath the passenger seat every time I turned. At a stoplight, I reached down, failed to catch it, and nearly drove into the back of a plumbing van. By the time I pulled into my driveway, Aaron's car was parked at the curb. He stood when I entered the living room. He had used the spare key I'd given him years earlier and had made coffee while he waited. One mug sat on the table in front of him. No mug had been poured for me. You let yourself in, I said. You weren't answering. I was driving. You silenced my call while you were standing beside her. Is that what she told you? She didn't have to. I called. You looked at the phone, then I went to voicemail. I took off my coat. Very impressive reconstruction. How was coffee? Bad. I meant with Celia? So did I. He rubbed both hands over his face. You think this is funny? No. The coffee was genuinely terrible. What did she say? I hung my coat in the closet and aligned the hanger because the extra second annoyed him. She apologized for the dinner. For what? For what happened? That could mean anything. It meant the speech. Aaron stared at me. She had nothing to do with the speech. She knows. Then why is she apologizing? Because she liked being called your mother in front of me and did not object when you made sure I wasn't. His cheeks reddened. She told you that? Yes. Of course she did. The bitterness in his voice made me pause. What does that mean? It means she knows how to make herself sound honest. She was honest. You spoke to her for an hour. 2. That's even worse. He walked into the kitchen. I followed more slowly. The silver balloon had finally lost enough air to descend. It floated above the refrigerator, its surface wrinkled, the ribbon hanging low enough to brush Aaron's shoulder. He swatted it away. Why haven't you gotten rid of that thing? I've grown attached. It's half dead. So are most houseplants. He opened a cabinet, took out a second mug, and filled it from the coffee maker. I didn't ask for coffee. You drink coffee. I also drink water. Are you taking requests? He pushed the mug toward me. I talked to Celia after she left the garden, he said. I assumed. She was upset. She seemed calm. She's good at seeming calm. So am I. That's different. Why? He leaned against the counter. Because I know you. There it was again. His permanent key to every locked door. What did you tell her? He asked. That I never opposed the two of you seeing each other. I told her that. You also told her I was secure about my place and wanted her at the dinner. You did want her there. I welcomed her after she arrived. That's what I mean. You were gracious. Graciousness after being cornered is not consent before it. Oh, come on. He set down his mug hard enough to spill coffee. You're turning a dinner invitation into a hostage situation. You're the one who used the word cornered first. You just did, in your head, perhaps. He grabbed a dish towel and wiped the counter. You both do this, he said. You take every imperfect thing I say and pull it apart until the original point doesn't exist. What was the original point? That I wanted two important women in my life to share one evening without it becoming a competition. It wasn't a competition until you handed out ranks. I did not hand out ranks. You called one of us your mother and the other one Ruth. She is my mother. So am I. He froze. It was the first time I had said it plainly since the dinner, not asked him to say it, not described what I had done. Claimed it. His eyes moved away from mine. See, I said, even here, alone, you can't answer. I don't know what answer you want. That one has always been your escape hatch. I called you Mom the entire time we were growing up. We? You know what I mean. I do. You're upset. I'm not upset. I'm exhausted. He threw the damp towel beside the sink. Do you have any idea what it's like to try to build something with Celia when every conversation comes with 30 years of missing pieces? No. She remembers things differently than Dad did. She says she called more than he told me. She says she wrote letters. Did she? I don't know. That answer frightened him more than anger did. She says there were times he asked her not to disrupt things, Aaron continued. She also admits there were years she didn't try. I don't know which parts to believe. You may have to believe that several parts are true. That's easy for you to say. No, it isn't. You had him. You had the whole life. She gets fragments, and I get two women telling me the story was more complicated than I remember. I have not told you what to believe about your past. You met her behind my back. Celia and I are not having an affair, Aaron. His mouth twitched before he stopped it. You know what I mean. I met an adult woman for coffee after she asked me directly. Neither of us belongs to you. I didn't say you did. You're behaving as if we require supervision. I wanted the chance to handle this carefully. You wanted to manage what each of us knew about the other. I was trying to protect the relationship. Which one? All of them. He pushed away from the counter and began pacing. I needed one thing not to become a disaster, he said. One thing. I thought if the dinner went well, Celia would understand you weren't a threat. You would understand she wasn't replacing you. Then maybe we could all move forward. And the speech was, how you showed me I wasn't being replaced. The speech was a mistake. The word stopped me. It was the first time he had called it that. A mistake in judgment. He added quickly, not some deliberate act of cruelty. Lena told me you knew exactly how it would sound. His head snapped toward me. Lena should not have come here. She apologized. For what? Being my wife? For staying silent. Fantastic. Everybody gets to demonstrate their integrity at my expense. You keep making yourself the victim of other people responding to your choices. And you keep pretending none of this started because you couldn't let one word go. It started because you couldn't say it. He looked toward the window. Outside, the afternoon had darkened. Our reflections hovered in the glass, 2 people standing several feet apart in my kitchen. "You're making me choose between you," he said. "No. You're talking to Celia separately. You're canceling dinners. You're turning Lena against me. I never asked you to stop seeing Celia. I never asked Lena to come here. I canceled one dinner because I was hurt. You want me to prove who matters more. You already decided who would be named in public and who would keep doing the work in private." His face went blank. "That's not fair. It may not be. But it is what happened." He took his coat from the closet. At the front door, he turned. "I'm trying to have a relationship with my biological mother before it's too late, then have one." "Why does that sound like permission?" "Because you keep asking me to take responsibility for it." He opened the door. "I don't know who you are right now," he said. "Neither do I." That startled both of us. He left without answering. I stood in the hallway until his car disappeared. Then I locked the door and looked at the silver balloon. "You," I said, "have overstayed." I pulled it down by the ribbon and punctured it over the sink with a paring knife. The sound was disappointingly small. Lorraine called that evening. "Choir tomorrow," she said. "I'm not going. I already told them you were." "Why?" "They asked if I was bringing anyone. You could have said no. I don't like disappointing people." I looked at the collapsed silver balloon in the trash. "That is completely untrue. Rehearsal starts at 7. I'll pick you up at 6:30. No? 6:40? Lorraine. Wear comfortable shoes." She hung up. At 6:30 the following evening, she was in my driveway honking as though the house had caught fire. I went outside in my coat. "Do you know where the doorbell is?" I asked. "I didn't want to pressure you. You're sitting on the horn. It's cheerful pressure." The choir rehearsed in the fellowship hall of a stone church downtown. About 40 adults stood in uneven rows while a woman named Margaret played scales on an upright piano. Nobody wore robes. Nobody looked especially holy. One man had brought a travel mug the size of a fire extinguisher. Margaret handed me a folder. "Alto?" she asked. "I don't know." Lorraine answered for me. "Alto. Based on what?" "Your personality. That isn't how voices work. Give it time." I took a seat in the back row. The sheet music had penciled notes from whoever used it before me. "Breathe here. Watch Margaret. Do not rush." That last instruction seemed personal. We began with a spiritual I knew from the radio. I entered half a measure early, stopped, and came back late. The man beside me sang with enormous confidence and no detectable relationship to the piano. After the second verse, Margaret pointed toward the back. "Altos, I need less volume and more listening." The confident man nodded seriously at me. I almost told him she meant both of us. Instead, I laughed. For 90 minutes, nobody asked me to fix anything. I did not arrange the chairs, collect the pencils, or remind Margaret that 2 folders were missing. When a stack of music slid off a table, 3 other people picked it up before I could move. During the final song, our section found the right chord together. It lasted perhaps 4 seconds. The sound rose around me, warm and close, and something in my chest loosened before I could defend against it. In Lorraine's car, I checked my phone. One message from Aaron. "Celia won't answer me." "What did you say to her?" I read it twice, then put the phone back into my purse. "What?" Lorraine asked. "Nothing I can fix." She started the car. "Good," she said, and drove me home. At home, I answered Aaron's message with 4 words. "Ask her, not me." He replied before I had taken off my shoes. I did ask her, then ask again later. She said she needs space. Give it to her. The dots appeared. vanished, and returned. You've known her for 2 hours and suddenly you're an expert. I left that one unanswered. Celia called the next morning. I'm sorry to put you in the middle, she said. You didn't. Erin keeps drawing a circle around me. She was at the airport. I could hear announcements in the background and the hard wheels of suitcases passing over tile. I'm going home, she said. I thought you changed your ticket. I changed it again. That airline must love you. They've started sending me holiday cards. Her flight would take her to Detroit, where she would connect to Dayton. The route made no sense to me, but neither did most air travel. Did you tell Aaron? I asked. Yes. How did he take it? He wants to drive me. To Dayton, to the airport. Then Dayton. Then possibly into a healthier emotional future. That last road has construction. She gave a tired laugh. I told him I need a little time, she said. He heard that as punishment. He hears any delay as opposition. I'm trying not to disappear again. The airport noise faded behind her. She must have moved toward a window or an empty gate. If I leave after a difficult conversation, it looks like I'm repeating myself, she said. You have a return ticket? Yes. You told him you're going home? Yes. Then you aren't disappearing. He doesn't believe that. That belongs to the two of you. She was quiet. It felt harsh. The old Ruth would have softened it immediately. She would have asked what Aaron had said, explained what he meant, and suggested the exact wording Celia could use to make him less afraid. My mouth formed the beginning of an apology. I stopped it. I'm not saying I don't care, I said. I'm saying I can't be the place where you bring your relationship with him to be repaired. No, Celia said. You're right. I am? I dislike how surprised you sound. I'm experimenting. Keep the receipt. An announcement swallowed the next few seconds. When I could hear her again, she said, I'll call him after I land. That seems reasonable. Would you tell him that? No. This time her laugh was real. Goodbye, Ruth. Safe flight. After we hung up, I stood in my kitchen waiting for guilt to arrive. It came promptly, carrying luggage. I made coffee and let it sit beside me until it turned cold. Later that afternoon, I drove to St. Gabriel to return my badge and the last set of keys. I had found them in the pocket of my winter coat, which either meant I was becoming forgetful or had been hoping the hospital would summon me back. The employee entrance rejected my badge. I pressed it against the reader twice. The light flashed red both times. Ben opened the door from inside. They already erased you, he said. That was fast. We had a meeting. I assume morale improved. Briefly. Then Dr. Bhandari found a mislabeled specimen and remembered anger. Ben hugged me with one arm, keeping a cup of coffee level in the other. The laboratory looked the same and didn't. The same machines hummed. The same printer blinked an error no one intended to address. But my old office door was open, and a woman I recognized from the day shift sat at my desk. Her name was Erica. She had been promoted to evening supervisor and had already moved the filing cabinet. You moved the filing cabinet, I said before I said hello. Erica stood quickly. Ruth, I didn't know you were coming. I came to return these. I held out the keys. She accepted them like evidence. The filing cabinet blocked the vent, she said. It was there for 11 years. I know. There was a reason. What reason? I looked at the pale rectangle on the floor where the cabinet had stood. I don't remember. Ben coughed into his coffee. Erica had put a small lamp on the desk and replaced my wall calendar with a whiteboard. 3 columns had been labeled now, next, and later. That seems optimistic, I said. The board? Later. She smiled carefully. I wanted to tell her the lower drawer stuck in humid weather. I wanted to warn her that Dr. Bhandari would leave unsigned forms beneath the blue tray and insist someone else had moved them. I wanted to explain that Ben joked when he was anxious and sang when he was truly frightened. Instead, I gave her the keys. You'll do fine, I said. Relief crossed her face. I hope so. You won't every day, but frequently enough. That's encouraging. It's honest. Ben followed me to the elevator. "You can visit," he said. "I just did. You can visit again. You'll be tired of me. We were tired of you before you retired." The elevator doors opened. "See," he said. "Nothing has to change." Everything did, I thought. But I hugged him and went downstairs. The red light flashed when I tried to exit through the employee door. I had to wait for a security guard to let me out. Sunday came with sleet. At 4:30, I began taking ingredients from the refrigerator without deciding what I was making. Butter, mushrooms, half an onion. I lined them on the counter and stood looking at them. For decades, Sunday had narrowed towards 6 o'clock. By 5, Daniel would be setting the table incorrectly. By 5:30, Aaron would text that they were leaving, which meant he was still in the shower. Lena would arrive carrying wine and apologize for being late, even when they were early. Now the clock moved from 5:15 to 5:16 without requiring anything from me. I cooked the mushrooms and onion in butter, added 2 eggs, and ate the whole thing from a bowl. The sleet clicked against the windows. At 6:02, Lena sent a photograph of Aaron standing over a pot. Steam had clouded his glasses. He made soup. There was no known explanation. I enlarged the picture. Aaron's mouth was open, probably objecting to the photograph. On the counter behind him sat my blue-lidded casserole dish. I typed, "Check for ricotta." Lena responded with 3 laughing faces. Aaron did not appear in the conversation. The next Sunday, he sent me a picture of a chicken. The skin was evenly browned. The rosemary had not caught fire. No words, just the chicken. I replied, "Let it rest before carving." He sent a thumbs up. That was all. The week after that, he did not send anything. I continued going to choir. Margaret moved me from the back row to the middle, not because I had improved, but because the man beside me had been asked to listen from another location. His name was Carl. He took the reassignment well. "I've always had a solo voice," he told me. "You have several," I said. Lorraine overheard and laughed loud enough for Margaret to glare at both of us. After rehearsal, several choir members went for pie at an all-night restaurant. The first week, I declined. The second week, Lorraine pushed me into a booth before I could decide. Margaret ordered lemon meringue and spent 20 minutes explaining why the sopranos were trying to kill her. Carl ate apple pie without removing his wool hat. A woman named Jean told a story about getting locked in the church storage room with 12 folding music stands and a plastic palm tree. I laughed until my tea went cold. When I got home, there was a voicemail from Aaron. "Call me when you can. Nothing's wrong." I listened twice because nothing's wrong had never preceded good news in our family. He answered on the first ring. "Hi," he said. "What happened?" "Nothing happened. You sound like Ben. Who?" "Never mind." He took a breath. "Did you know Aunt Nora's birthday was yesterday?" "Yes. Why didn't you remind me?" I sat down on the edge of my bed. "Because you're 43. You always remind me." "I used to." She called today. She made a joke about getting my card late. "Did you send one?" "I ordered flowers. Then the system worked." "That isn't the point." "What is the point?" "The point is that things are slipping because you're trying to teach me a lesson." Aunt Nora's birthday did not move. You keep the family calendar. I kept it. For everybody, apparently. His breathing changed. "I'm not asking you to cook," he said. "I'm not asking you to fix things with Celia. I'm asking why you've stopped doing ordinary things you've always done." Because they were ordinary, I thought. So ordinary he had stopped seeing a person perform them. "I'm not trying to teach you a lesson," I said. "I'm deciding which things I still want to do." And reminding me about Aunt Nora didn't make the list? This year, no. He was silent. Then he said, "Lena and I had a fight." My body leaned toward the problem before I could stop it. "What about?" "She says I treat every change you make like an attack. What do you think?" "I think she's spending too much time talking to you. She visited me once." "You've been texting about ricotta." "I'm serious. So am I." He sighed. "Would you talk to her?" "No." The answer came out before I had time to decorate it. You don't even know what I was going to ask. You asked if I would talk to your wife about a fight between the two of you. You know how she gets. I know how both of you get. Then help me. No. The words sounded cleaner the second time. Aaron did not speak. I love you, I said. I am not entering your marriage to explain you to Lena. You used to. I know. And now you're not my mother anymore? The question struck exactly where he intended. I held the phone tighter. Is that what you think a mother is? He hung up. I sat in the quiet bedroom with the phone still pressed to my ear. Then, from somewhere outside, came the soft scrape of a snow shovel against concrete. A car door closed. A dog barked once. Ordinary things continued without asking what I was to anyone. I did not sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard the last thing Aaron had said. And now you're not my mother anymore? He knew how to place a question so that any answer sounded guilty. If I said yes, I was proving his worst accusation. If I said no, then every boundary I had set became evidence of pettiness. A mother reminded him about Aunt Nora. A mother explained him to his wife. A mother forgave a speech before the cake was cut. At 3 a.m, I got out of bed and found the blue flyer Lorraine had given me. It was still wrinkled from the diner and bore a faint coffee ring. Community chorus welcomes new voices. Below that, somebody had drawn a smiling musical note. It looked unstable. I stuck the flyer to the refrigerator with a magnet from a plumbing company. Then I opened the freezer and counted the lasagna portions. 5. It was not useful information, but it was information that stayed put. Lena called before breakfast. I'm not asking you to take sides, she said immediately. Then this will be short. I'm asking whether he called you. Yes. Did he tell you we fought? Yes. Did he tell you why? He said you think he treats every change I make like an attack. That's the short version. I don't want the long one. She went quiet. Fair, she said. I carried the phone upstairs and began making the bed one-handed. Is he there? I asked. He left for work. Then talk to him when he comes home. I plan to. Good. Ruth. What? This is hard to say without sounding like I blame you. That has never stopped anyone. She let out a breath. You made things very easy for him. I smoothed the blanket across the mattress. I know. No, I mean you made things easy for all of us. You remembered everything. You noticed every mood before it became a problem. If Aaron forgot to call someone, you told him before they noticed. If he said something rude, you explained what he meant before I decided what I heard. Efficient. It was generous. Those can coexist. Yes. But now you've stopped, and he thinks the stopping is the injury. He can't see how much work was there because you spent years making sure it looked effortless. I sat on the edge of the bed. Are you saying I caused this? I'm saying none of us knows how to act without the version of you who kept everybody comfortable. And you want her back? No. The answer came quickly. I want you, Lena said. Whatever that looks like when you're not managing all of us. I looked toward Daniel's empty side of the closet. I'm not sure I know. Neither do we. That was less comforting than she intended. Talk to your husband, I said. I will. And Lena? Yes? Don't tell me afterward. She laughed, surprised. Okay. After we hung up, I took my lab coat from the dining room chair. It had hung there since the retirement dinner, one sleeve turned inside out, as if waiting for me to put it back on. I carried it upstairs and placed it in the rear of the closet. Then I came back down and looked at the empty chair. The dining room seemed larger. At noon, I drove to Aaron's office. He worked for a company that designed inventory systems for warehouses, which sounded vague until he began explaining it and became unbearable. His office occupied the second floor of a converted factory. Exposed brick walls, polished concrete floors, and so many glass partitions that privacy felt like a rumor. The receptionist recognized me. Ruth, she said warmly, congratulations on retiring. Thank you. Aaron showed us pictures from the dinner. Did he? Your cake was incredible. It was anatomically incorrect. She blinked. The microscope. Oh, never mind. Aaron came through a glass door carrying a tablet. His expression shifted when he saw me. Is everything okay? Can we talk? I have a meeting in 20 minutes. Then we'll use 19. He led me into a small conference room. One wall was covered with squares of colored paper. Aaron closed the door but left the blinds open. I wish you'd called, he said. You hung up on me. So you came to my work? If I came to your house, you'd say I was involving Lena. He set the tablet on the table. What do you want? To answer your question. His eyes hardened. I was angry. You still asked it. Fine. Are you not my mother anymore? I am. His shoulders loosened slightly. That doesn't mean I will keep doing everything I did before. So there are conditions. There were always conditions. You're an adult. If you insulted me every time you saw me, I wouldn't continue inviting you to dinner because motherhood required it. I did not insult you. You denied our relationship when acknowledging it became inconvenient. I made one bad decision, and you keep defending it. I said it was a mistake. You said the wording was a mistake. You still believe I should have absorbed it quietly. He glanced through the glass toward the hall. An employee walked past carrying a laptop and pretended not to look at us. I'm not having this conversation at work, Aaron said. You brought me into a glass room. You came here. You're right. I stood. He looked startled. You have a meeting, I said. I said what I came to say. That's it? What else would you like? I don't know. Maybe an explanation for why being my mother suddenly depends on whether I use the word often enough. I sat back down. You think I'm keeping score, aren't you? No, I think the word revealed the score you were keeping. What score? Celia was the mother whose feelings required protection. I was the mother whose labor could be relied upon while her feelings were treated as an obstacle. That is a speech, not an answer. The answer is that I love you. I have not stopped loving you. I have stopped doing some things that hurt me. Remembering Aunt Nora's birthday hurt you? No. Being treated like a family service that runs in the background hurt me. He leaned forward. You never complained. I'm complaining now. And I'm supposed to know which parts of our entire relationship were secretly a burden. The question landed. Not secretly, I said. Not always. Most of it wasn't. Then why punish me for accepting what you offered? I am not blaming you for every meal I cooked. It feels like you are. I'm changing what I offer now because you're angry. Partly. He looked away. The conference room was too cold. Air moved through a vent above us with a steady hiss. I knew Celia could leave, he said. His voice had changed. I waited. She had already done it. Even after she came back, every time she took more than an hour to answer, I thought that was it. I thought she'd decided the whole thing was too difficult. And me? I never thought you would. There was no triumph in hearing it. I haven't left, I said. You canceled dinner. You stopped calling. You don't remind me of things. You won't help when Lena and I fight. I am sitting in your conference room. That's not the same. No, I'm here in a way you can't mistake for service. His eyes met mine. For one moment, I thought he understood. Then he said, so this is about teaching me to appreciate you. No. You want me to feel what happens when you're gone. I want to find out who I am when I'm not holding up every corner, while I pay for it. Some of the corners are yours. His tablet chimed on the table. Aaron turned it over. I need to go. I stood again. At the door, he said, Celia is coming back next month. That's good. She told me she wants to spend time with me without talking about the past every minute. That sounds reasonable. She also said she wants to see you. I turned. Do you want that? No. At least he was honest. Why? Because she leaves every conversation with you sounding like she's discovered something about me. Maybe she has. You've made your point. I'm not trying to make one. Everything you do lately is a point. The meeting reminder chimed again. I opened the door. Then I'll make this simple, I said. My relationship with Celia is not yours to approve. He looked at me with something closer to fear than anger. I need space, he said. I nodded. All right. He had expected resistance. I saw it in the way his mouth opened. I left before he could decide what to do with my agreement. For the next 3 weeks, Aaron and I did not speak. His request for space created a shape in my days. I saw it when I reached for the phone after choir. I felt it on Sundays at 5:30. I noticed it in the grocery store when I passed the mustard he liked and did not put it in my cart. I told myself the silence was his choice. That did not make it quiet. Celia called once. I told her Aaron and I were taking a break from talking. Because of me? She asked. Because of us. Which us? Exactly. She accepted that answer and did not ask me to translate him. At choir, Margaret announced that we would host a potluck after the next rehearsal. Before I could stop myself, I volunteered my house. Lorraine turned slowly toward me. What? I said. You hate potlucks. I hate disorganized potlucks. That's all potlucks. Not anymore. 12 people came. I made 1 pan of baked pasta and did not make backup food. Lorraine brought a salad. Jean brought 2 pies. Carl brought a bag of ice and no beverage. I was assigned ice, he said. For what? No one specified. We put it in the sink. My dining table filled with people who did not know where I kept the serving spoons. They opened the wrong drawers, used the good napkins, and left water rings on the wood. I let them. After everyone left, I found one of Daniel's old wine glasses beneath a chair. It had a chip on the rim. I sat at the table holding it. The evening had been noisy and pleasant. Nobody had needed me to rescue it. Still, when I looked at the empty chair across from mine, I pictured Aaron opening my refrigerator, asking what I had made, complaining that the mustard was wrong. I missed him so sharply that I pressed my thumb against the chipped glass until it hurt. Then the doorbell rang. I wiped my eyes with the heel of my hand and opened the door. Aaron stood on the porch. He looked past me at the used plates, the glasses, and the remains of pie. You had people over, he said. Yes. On a Sunday. Yes. He nodded as if I had confirmed something unpleasant. I guess you found a replacement family, he said. I looked back at the folding chairs, dirty plates, and Carl's unexplained bag of ice melting in my sink. They're from choir, I said. I know who they are. How? Lorraine posted a picture. Of course she did. She tagged the location. I'll have her arrested. Aaron did not smile. You asked for space, I said. I didn't ask you to replace me. You are not being replaced. Then what is this? A potluck on Sunday night. Sunday is available to the public. You know what I mean. I did. That was the trouble. Would you like to come in? I asked. He hesitated before stepping over the threshold. I closed the door behind him. Aaron took in the room the way someone examines a house after a burglary. Jean's pie plate sat on the coffee table. A paper napkin was wedged beneath one leg of the piano bench because Carl had announced the bench was musically uneven. 3 choir folders were stacked on the sideboard. Aaron walked into the dining room and touched the back of his usual chair. Did somebody sit here? They did not submit a diagram. He gave me a look. Probably Margaret. Who's Margaret? The choir director. You've mentioned her. I don't believe I have. Lena did. That meant Lena and I had entered conversations I wasn't present for. I picked up 2 plates and carried them into the kitchen. Aaron followed, still wearing his coat. There's pie, I said. I didn't come for pie. That has never prevented you from eating it. He looked at the remains of the lemon meringue. Did you make that? Jean did. Who's Jean? A woman in the choir. You have a lot of new people. I know 7 names. 8 if you count the ice guy. Carl. 9 then. I cut him a piece of pie. He took off his coat and sat at the kitchen table. For several minutes, we said nothing. Aaron ate. I placed glasses in the dishwasher and listened to his fork move against the plate. This is good, he said. I'll tell Jean. Do that. I filled the sink with hot water for the pans that wouldn't fit in the dishwasher. "You didn't ask why I came," he said. "You accused me of replacing you before I could." "I didn't accuse. You pronounced sentence from the porch." He scraped a streak of meringue from the plate. "I came because Celia is arriving Friday. You told me she was coming. She wants the four of us to have dinner." "Four? You, me, Lena, and her. Why?" "She thinks we need to clear the air. The heir has filed for relocation. I told her it was a bad idea. And?" "She said it shouldn't be my decision. That seems to be a theme." Aaron set down his fork. "She wants you there." "Do you?" "I want things not to be like this." "That isn't the same answer." "No, I don't want a dinner where you and Celia sit across from me and explain what I did wrong. Then don't organize one. She'll think I'm trying to keep you apart. You were." His face tightened. "I don't like you discussing me with her. Then we won't discuss you. What else would you talk about? Begonias, air travel, the decline of coffee. You don't have anything in common except me. We also married the same man." The sentence slipped out before I considered it. Aaron pushed the plate away. "Is that what this is becoming? The two of you revising Dad?" "No. She told me he kept her from calling. She told me he may have discouraged contact at certain times. He never told us that." "No." "And you believe her?" "I believe she believes it. That's a diplomatic answer. It's the only one I have." He stood and walked to the window above the sink. "Dad isn't here to defend himself. He also isn't here to be made simpler than he was. You always defended him. I loved him." "That's not what I said." "No, it isn't." He turned toward me. "Do you think he lied?" "I think Daniel disliked conflict so much he sometimes called avoidance kindness. That sounds familiar." "Yes." The word landed between us. Aaron folded his arms. "So now Dad failed you too." "That isn't what I said. You're discovering everybody used you. I have not said that either. You don't have to. You've decided you spent your whole life giving, and the rest of us spent it taking." The accusation hurt, because it touched something I had begun to fear. Had I turned every meal, reminder, and late-night phone call into evidence? Was I retroactively charging interest on love I had once offered freely? "I don't regret raising you," I said. "I didn't say you did. I don't regret Sunday dinners. I don't regret helping you move or listening when your engagement ended or telling Aunt Nora you had the flu when you forgot her 60th birthday. You told me you'd never mention that. She knew you weren't sick. That's beside the point. The point is, I loved doing many of those things. I probably did too many. Why? Because being needed made me feel safe." Aaron looked at me. The admission embarrassed me more than I expected. "When your father died," I said, "you still came every Sunday. You still called when something broke. You still needed recipes and reminders." I told myself that meant I had not lost my family. "You hadn't." "No. But I also never found out what remained if I stopped being useful, and now you're testing me." "No. That's exactly what you're doing. I'm testing myself, at my expense. Not everything that changes me is being done to you." He gave a short, humorless laugh. "That sounds like something Celia would say. It sounds like something an adult woman would say." "Which one?" "Any of us, if you stop translating long enough." He picked up his coat from the chair. "I shouldn't have come." "Why did you?" "I told you." "The dinner." "No." "You could have called." He pulled one sleeve on and stopped. "I saw the picture," he said. "Lorraine's picture." "Yes." "And you thought?" "That you looked happy." The answer was so bare that I had nothing ready for it. "I was happy," I said. 3 weeks. "What? It took you 3 weeks to fill the table. I didn't fill your seat. You gave it to Margaret." Despite myself, I laughed. Aaron's mouth moved, almost joining me, then flattened. "You chose to be my mother," he said. "Yes. You knew what you were taking on. I did. Celia didn't get to choose what you became." "No. But she did make choices about what she was able to be." He looked toward the doorway. "When you say you chose me, it sounds noble," he said. "When she says she didn't, it sounds unforgivable." "I have never asked you to forgive or condemn either of us. You don't have to. One of you stayed." The sentence echoed his tribute. The people who choose to stay. He had presented my staying as a virtue, then resented the judgment it cast on Celia. Maybe that was another reason he had used my name. If I became simply Ruth, my presence could be praised without becoming evidence of her absence. "Erin," I said, "the fact that I stayed does not have to be a weapon against her. Then stop using it as one." "I'm not. Every boundary you set says the same thing. She left, and now you can too." I took a step toward him. "I am not leaving." "It feels like it. I am changing the terms of an adult relationship. You say that like we're negotiating a phone contract. I don't know how else to say it. You could say you're my mother and you'll be there. I am your mother. I am here. No, you're here when it feels healthy for you." "Yes." He stared at me. "That's what adults do," I said. "Even mothers." His eyes filled so quickly that he turned away before I could be certain. I wanted to touch his shoulder. Every part of me leaned toward him. But the old gesture would have ended the conversation without resolving it. I would have held him. He would have apologized for upsetting me rather than for what he had done. I would have heated more pie. I stayed where I was. "Tell Celia I won't come to a dinner arranged to prove we're all fine," I said. "If she wants to see me separately, she can call. So you're making me deliver that. You're the one who brought the invitation." He opened the door. "Good night, Ruth." He said my name deliberately. This time there was no audience to protect. I closed the door after him and stood with my hand on the knob. The pie plate remained on the table, a small triangle of crust left where he had scraped it clean. On Friday afternoon, Celia called. "Erin says you declined dinner. I declined a performance. That's more dramatic than how he put it." "How did he put it?" "He said you refused." Also true. She was quiet. I thought if we all sat down, he thought the retirement dinner would accomplish the same thing. That's fair. "Do you want dinner with him and Lena?" "Yes." "Then have it." "And you?" "I'm not the chaperone for your relationship." "No. You can call me while you're here. We can talk about anything except Erin. Is that possible?" "We'll find out." She agreed. Saturday evening, while Erin, Lena, and Celia had dinner, I went to the movies alone. I chose a comedy and sat between an elderly man who laughed before every punchline and a woman who removed her shoes. Halfway through, my phone vibrated. I did not check it until the credits. Lena had sent one message. "Dinner happened. Everyone survived. Your chicken recipe was used without incident." Erin had called 20 minutes later. I stood beneath the theater marquee and listened to his voicemail while people moved around me. "Dinner's over." It was... He paused. It was bad. Not terrible. Just bad in a way I didn't expect. "Call me if you're awake." I called. He answered quietly. "Where are you?" he asked. "At the movies. With the choir?" "Alone." "Oh, what happened?" He exhaled. "I asked Celia why she left. I waited. She answered. And I didn't like the answer. That doesn't mean it wasn't true. She said she kept waiting to become someone who deserved to come back. She told me something similar. She also said some years she didn't think about coming back at all." His voice broke on the last word. I sat on a bench outside the theater. Cars moved through the wet parking lot, headlights shining across the pavement. "I thought she was going to give me a reason," he said. "She did." "No, I mean a reason that made it impossible for her to stay. I understood then. He had wanted a villain large enough to preserve both of them. An illness, a threat, Daniel, fate. Something that would turn abandonment into an accident." "What did you say?" I asked. I got angry. "That makes sense." I called her selfish. "That may also be true. You're supposed to tell me I shouldn't have. Do you think you shouldn't have?" "I don't know." For once, he did not ask me to know for him. I heard a door close on his end. His breathing steadied. "What do I do now?" he asked. "I don't know. Really. We sat in silence over the phone. Then Aaron said, "I'll call her tomorrow." "All right. Will you answer if I call you after? If you want to tell me how you feel and not ask you to fix it, that would be different." He was quiet again. "Good night," he said. He did not call me Mom. He did not call me Ruth either. For that night, the empty space felt honest. Aaron called the next afternoon. "I talked to her," he said. "I was standing in the laundry room matching socks that had no practical reason to separate." "How did it go?" she answered. "That sounds promising." She answered after I called 3 times. "That sounds like you." He ignored that. I apologized for calling her selfish. "Did you mean it?" "I'm not sure." "Then what did you apologize for?" "Saying it the way I did." I paired 2 black socks and placed them on top of the dryer. "That is a familiar distinction," I said. "I knew you'd say that. You called me. I know." He was quiet. "So why did you apologize?" I asked. "Because I wanted her to keep talking. That's a reason. Not a good one?" "I didn't grade it. Your tone graded it. My tone has retired." He sighed. "She said she was selfish," he continued. "She said there were years when reaching out would have required her to admit what she had done, and she chose people who didn't know her history instead. She kept starting over. And hearing that hurt. I wanted her to say she thought about me every day. I folded another pair of socks. Did she? No. That must have been hard to hear. She said there were stretches when she forced herself not to think about me because thinking made it difficult to live with herself. That sounds different from not caring. I know, but it doesn't give you back the time. No. The dryer clicked as it cooled. Aaron breathed into the phone. "What am I supposed to do with both things?" he asked. "Keep both." "That's your advice?" "I thought you weren't asking me to fix it." "I'm not. You said, 'What am I supposed to do?'" It was rhetorical. "You've never respected rhetoric that much." He laughed, barely. "Celia said I keep asking questions as if one answer will make the other answers unnecessary," he said. "She's observant. She also said I arranged your retirement dinner to prove something to her." I stopped folding. "What did you say?" "I said I wanted her to feel included." "What did she say?" "She asked why, including her required excluding you." The room seemed very still. "And?" I asked. I told her I made a mistake. The wording. He was silent. "Aaron? I don't know yet." It was not enough. But it was the first time he had admitted he did not know instead of telling me what I should understand. "All right," I said. "That's it? That's all I have." He stayed on the phone while I finished the laundry. We talked about other things. Ben had sent me a photograph of the gray filing cabinet in its new position. The vent had improved, but one drawer now opened directly into the door. Aaron told me Lena's company had ordered 800 towels in the wrong shade of white. "How many shades are there?" I asked. "Apparently enough to ruin her week." "Did she ask you to fix it?" "No." "Did you?" "I started to." "And?" "She told me to go make soup." Progress. Before we hung up, he said, "Celia wants to see you tomorrow. She can call me." I told her that. More progress. "She asked whether you like Italian food. I was married to your father. I learned to tolerate it. He wasn't Italian. He cooked as if he were being sued by Italy." Aaron laughed. The sound loosened something in me. I let it, but I did not mistake it for an apology. Celia chose a small restaurant near her hotel. She was already seated when I arrived, reading the dessert menu before dinner. "You really do read the last page first," I said. "Aaron told you. He tells me many things about you. I'm beginning to realize that." She closed the menu. I ordered wine. "It's 4:30. My flight leaves at 7. I'm on airport time." I sat across from her. For the first 10 minutes, we did not discuss Aaron. We discussed the conservatory. Celia had received an email informing her that the dramatic begonia had developed root rot. I knew it was withholding something, I said. I have to repot it when I get back. How long have you volunteered there? Whenever I'm in town. My friend Maribel coordinates the volunteers. She lets me pretend I'm essential. That explained the special access without my asking. Are you essential? I said. No, that's why I like it. The server took our orders. Celia chose eggplant parmesan. I ordered soup and a sandwich. Lena likes you, Celia said after the server left. I like her. She says you're angry with her. I was. Past tense? Intermittent. Celia smiled. She told me she read the speech. I know. Did Aaron tell you? He accidentally blamed her. That also sounds like him. We were learning the same shorthand. It made me uneasy. I don't want this to become a club, I said. What club? Women who have discovered Aaron is difficult. Celia considered. The dues would be enormous. I'm serious. So am I. I don't want you to come to me every time you're angry with him. I won't do that to you. No. We can know each other without making him the subject. That may leave us begonias and terrible coffee. Some friendships have survived on less. Is that what we're building? I don't know. She looked relieved. I don't either. Our food arrived. The eggplant parmesan was large enough to require planning permission. Celia cut one corner and stared at it. He asked me why I didn't object during your tribute, she said. That sounds like discussing Aaron. It's discussing me, convenient. I told him the truth. I liked being the only person he called Mom. I put down my spoon. He told me he thought that was what you wanted. For a few minutes, it was. And now? Now I know what it cost. She cut another piece of eggplant, but did not eat it. I also realized something ugly, she said. If he called both of us Mom, I would have to accept that the word doesn't prove what I wish it proved. What do you wish it proved? That I am forgiven, that I belong, that I can still claim something. It can't do all that work. No. She looked at me. What does it prove to you? The question irritated me. I don't know, you do. It proves he knows who I am. He does know. Then why couldn't he say it? Because knowing and acknowledging aren't always the same. I leaned back. You sound like him. I hope not. You're telling me the word shouldn't matter. I'm asking what it means. It means I didn't imagine 34 years. Celia's face softened. You didn't. I know that until I'm sitting in a room where my son describes those years as a series of services provided by Ruth. I'm sorry. So am I. We ate quietly. After a while, Celia said, I don't know how to be his mother. Neither did I. You had practice. Practice means making new mistakes with greater confidence. Did Daniel help? When cornered, she laughed. I told her about Daniel's habit of answering both sides of an argument until everyone hated him equally. Celia told me he had been doing that at 25. He once agreed with me for 40 minutes, she said. At the end, I realized he had not actually expressed an opinion. That was his gift. We talked about him until the plates were cleared, not as competing witnesses, not as prosecutor and defense. We built one fuller man from details neither of us owned alone. At the entrance, Celia hugged me. I won't ask Aaron to arrange another dinner, she said. Thank you. And I won't ask you how to handle him. Thank you again. I may call about the begonia. I have killed every plant I ever owned. Excellent. You'll be objective. She left for the airport. At choir rehearsal the next week, Margaret announced that our spring concert would be held Friday night in the church sanctuary. Invite your families, she said. Invite your friends. Invite people who owe you money. We need bodies in the seats. Lorraine nudged me. Are you inviting Aaron? I don't know. You've been speaking. Occasionally, invite him. Why? Because you want him there. I disliked the answer because it was true. That evening, I sent Aaron a message. Choir concert Friday at 7. You and Lena are welcome. No obligation. He responded 20 minutes later. Thanks. Nothing else. Friday night, I stood beneath bright lights holding a black folder and tried not to search the audience. I found Lorraine's friend, Marcy, who waved both hands. I saw Ben and Erica from the laboratory seated near the aisle. Dr. Pandari sat between them, studying the program as if it contained errors he intended to report. The empty seats seemed brighter than the occupied ones. Margaret raised her hands. We began. During the first song, I entered correctly. During the second, Carl sang one line loudly enough to startle the tenors. By the third, I stopped looking beyond Margaret. The music required breath, attention, and the willingness to be one voice among many. Nobody could carry the whole chord. Nobody was supposed to. Near the end, we sang the spiritual we had rehearsed my first night. The altos found their note. I felt the sound around me before I heard my own part inside it. When the concert ended, the sanctuary filled with movement. People stood, gathered coats, and crossed aisles to find one another. I stepped down from the riser. Aaron and Lena were waiting near the back. He had come. Lena hugged me first. "You were wonderful," she said. "I was adequate in a coordinated way. You were wonderful." Aaron held a small bunch of yellow flowers wrapped in brown paper. "I didn't know what people bring to choir concerts," he said. "Usually complaints about parking." He handed me the flowers. "You looked happy," he said. I was frightened. "You looked happy, too." Margaret approached before I could answer. "There's my reliable alto," she said. "Reliable is what people call you before assigning another task." Margaret laughed, then looked at Aaron. "I'm Margaret. Aaron." Her face brightened with recognition. "Ruth's son." He glanced at me. "Yes," he said. "I'm her son." The words were ordinary. No microphone, no glass raised, no one waiting to see my reaction. Still, I felt them. Margaret turned to Lena. "And you are?" "Lena, his long-suffering wife." "Self-described," Aaron said. "Documented," Lena replied. They began talking about the concert. I stood beside Aaron with the flowers in my hand. After Margaret moved away, he said quietly, "I know that isn't enough." "No." I wanted to say it anyway. I looked at him. "Thank you." We walked outside together. The night was cold and people crowded the church steps saying goodbyes. At my car, Aaron put his hands into his coat pockets. "Could I come over Sunday?" he asked. "For dinner?" "No." I waited. "I need to tell you something," he said, "and I don't want to do it in a parking lot." "What time, 3? "All right, I'll bring coffee. You make terrible coffee, I'll buy it. Better." He kissed my cheek. As he walked away with Lena, I stood beside my car holding the yellow flowers. I did not know what he planned to say. For once, I believed he might not know either. Sunday morning, I bought coffee. I told myself it was because Aaron had threatened to bring his own, but I went to the expensive place near the grocery store and bought the dark roast he liked. At home, I measured enough for 4 cups, then poured half the grounds back into the bag. He was coming to talk, not stay for dinner. At 11, I considered making muffins. At 11:15, I took out the flour. At 11:20, I put it away. The act felt ridiculous, but so had the pie in his hand the week before. Food gave us both a place to hide. If I baked, Aaron could praise the muffins. I could send half home with him. We could move through the afternoon on crumbs and never arrive at the thing he had come to say. I cleaned the kitchen instead. Then I caught myself cleaning and stopped with one side of the sink polished and the other dull. At 2:58, the doorbell rang. Aaron stood on the porch holding a cardboard drink carrier. "You bought coffee," I said. "I said I would. I made coffee. You said mine was terrible. I made mine. So we have 6 cups. 4. That's still too many. We'll survive." He stepped inside and handed me one of the paper cups. "Black. 1 sugar," he said. I looked at him. "You remembered. I remember many things. That hasn't been the recent allegation." He smiled faintly. "Can we start over? The doorway? The conversation? I don't know what it is yet. Neither do I." He took off his coat and hung it in the closet. He did not walk into the kitchen or open the refrigerator. Instead, he waited for me to choose where we sat. I led him into the living room. The yellow flowers from the concert stood in a glass vase on the coffee table. Several had opened. One had collapsed sideways and was resting its head on another flower like an exhausted traveler. Aaron sat at one end of the couch. I took the chair across from him. For a while, he held the coffee between both hands. "I've been rehearsing this," he said. "That sounds dangerous." "I know. Did Lena read it?" "It's not written down." "Good." He looked at the flowers. "I need to tell you exactly what I did." My hand tightened around my cup. "I know what you did. You know the result. You don't know all of it." I waited. Aaron placed his coffee on the table. "When I started the tribute, I called you my mother." The room seemed to narrow. "The first draft," he continued, "I wrote, 'My mother taught me that showing up matters more than saying the perfect thing.' Then I changed it to your name. I remembered that line." The third, Ruth. The moment Lorraine stopped cutting her chicken. "How many times?" I asked. "What? How many times did you change it?" He looked down. "Every time." The answer entered quietly and struck hard. "I used my parents once," he said. "I changed it to Dad and Ruth. There was another line about how my mother drove 6 hours to help me move. I made it she, then rewrote the paragraph because it sounded obvious who she was. You edited around me." "Yes," not the word. "Me?" "Yes." He did not soften it. I was grateful and furious. "Lena heard you do this." "She read the final version. She didn't see the earlier one. She warned you, yes. And you decided she was wrong?" "I decided you would understand. You keep using that word." "I know." "What did you think I would understand? That Celia needed—" He stopped. "No. That's what I told myself." "What did you really think?" He lifted his eyes. "I thought you would take it." The directness hurt worse than his defenses had. "I thought you would notice," he said. "I knew you would. But I thought you would see why I did it, and you'd let it go because that's what you do." "What I did, yes." The furnace turned on beneath the floor. The vent clicked in the hallway. Aaron leaned forward, elbows on his knees. I wanted Celia to walk into that room and feel like there had always been a place waiting for her, he said. I knew that wasn't true. There wasn't. Not in the way she wanted. There was no empty chair with her name on it. You were in the chair. I didn't choose her absence. I know. Do you? Yes. His voice cracked. I know now that I made your existence the thing that hurt her. That wasn't fair to you. Or to her. No. He pressed his palms together. When she came back, I had all this anger I didn't want her to see. I thought if I was angry, she would decide it was too difficult and leave again. So I tried to be the son who understood everything, the son who welcomed her, the son who didn't ask ugly questions, the forgiving son. Yes. But you hadn't forgiven her. No. He stared at the floor. I wanted everyone at the dinner to see me include her, he said. I wanted her to see it. I wanted Lena to see it. Maybe I wanted Dad, wherever he is, to see that I could handle what he couldn't. And me? I wanted you to make it believable. There it was. Not merely a missing word, a role assigned to me in his performance. Ruth, the stable woman. Ruth, his father's wife. Ruth, the person who chose to stay and could therefore be counted on to stand still while he rearranged the meaning of her life. I set my coffee down before I dropped it. You used me as proof that everyone was fine, I said. Yes. And when I wasn't fine? I got angry because you ruined the proof. He swallowed. I am so sorry. I looked toward Daniel's photograph beneath the lake sky. His hands were in the pockets of the windbreaker. His eyes narrowed against the sun he could no longer blame on gulls. What are you sorry for? I asked. Aaron drew a breath. I'm sorry I denied you were my mother in front of people who knew you were. I'm sorry I made you sit beside Celia with no warning. I'm sorry I treated your love like something permanent I could hide when it was inconvenient and collect again when I wanted dinner. My throat tightened. I'm sorry I kept calling your hurt a misunderstanding because admitting you understood meant admitting I did it on purpose. And I'm sorry I tried to make you fix things with Celia and Lena afterward. He looked at me. I chose the person I thought would never leave because I believed I could hurt you without losing you. The sentence stayed between us. I wanted to forgive him. I wanted to cross the room, put my arms around him, and end the terrible strain in his face. I wanted my son back in the form I understood. But he was already there. The question was whether I could let him be there without returning both of us to the old arrangement. If Celia hadn't objected, I said, "Would you be sorry?" He considered. "Not this soon." The answer was not flattering. It was honest. "I think I would have convinced myself it worked," he said. "You would have made dinner the next night. We would have laughed. I would have used that as proof you weren't really hurt. I nearly did." "What stopped you?" "The refrigerator." He blinked. "I had enough vegetables to feed 6 people. You texted me before I got home asking about dinner. It was as if the speech had happened in one world, and you expected me to keep mothering you in another." He flinched at the word mothering, but he did not interrupt. "I realized you wanted the private benefits of the relationship without the public discomfort of naming it. I did. I don't know how to forget that. I'm not asking you to. You came here for something, to apologize. And then? I don't know." He looked at the untouched coffee he had brought. "I want Sunday dinners back," he said. "I want to open your refrigerator and complain about the mustard. I want you to call me when Dr. Bhandari throws something at a machine. He has only thrown one object." "I know. It became family history." "You told people?" "Lena knows. Of course she does." A brief smile passed between us. Then Aaron said, "But I know wanting those things doesn't mean I'm entitled to them. No, I don't know what we do instead. Neither do I. You always know." "No. I usually start cooking before anyone notices I don't." He leaned back. "Lena said something similar." "What did she say?" "That you made love look like a well-run house." I looked around the living room. One side of the curtain hung lower than the other. A choir folder had been left beneath the end table. Dust showed on the television screen. "That sounds like Lena," I said. "She also said I inherited Dad's habit of calling avoidance kindness. That sounds like me. She's very popular lately. Have you two worked things out? We're talking." "Good." He waited, perhaps expecting a question. I did not ask for details. After a moment, he said, "She told me I keep asking women to explain other women to me. She told me something similar. You discussed our marriage." She said one sentence. I told her not to tell me the rest. "Thank you." It was a small thing, but it felt new. Aaron picked up his coffee, discovered it was cold, and put it down again. "The choir people aren't replacing you," I said. "I know." "You did not sound as though you knew. I saw that picture and thought you had created a whole life in 3 weeks. I sang badly and served baked pasta. You looked happy. I can be happy without you and still miss you." He stared at me. "That feels unfair," he said. "It does. If you miss me, why not call? Because missing someone is not always instruction." He nodded slowly. "I missed you too." "I know." "You could say you missed me." "I just did." "No, you said it as a general principle. You are exhausting." He laughed. This time, I laughed with him. The sound did not solve anything. It did not erase the microphone, Celia's blue dress, or the way my coworkers had waited for my face to guide them. But it belonged to us. Not to the old version of us or the repaired one. Just to 2 adults sitting with too much coffee between them. Aaron's expression grew serious again. "Are you still my mother?" "Yes." "I know that question is manipulative." "It is." "I still need to hear it." "Yes," I repeated. "I am your mother." His eyes filled. I stayed in my chair. "And you are my son," I said. "But you are not a frightened young man I have to protect from every consequence. You're 43. If we rebuild this, I need you to come as the man you are." "What does that mean?" "It means you remember Aunt Nora's birthday. That seems to have become symbolic. It means you talk to Lena without sending either of us to translate. It means you have whatever relationship you can build with Celia without asking me to approve it or make it comfortable. And Sundays, not every week." His face fell slightly. "I don't want my whole life arranged around waiting for you to need me," I said. "I have choir. I may find other things." "You sound alarmed." "I am. Lorraine keeps mentioning volunteer work. That woman is dangerous, deeply." He nodded. "Not every week," he said. "Maybe sometimes?" "Maybe. Can I call?" "Yes, if nothing is wrong, especially then." He looked toward the kitchen. "Are you going to feed me?" "No," I had to ask. "You did not." He stood at 4:30. The conversation had lasted 90 minutes and neither of us had touched the coffee I made. At the door, he put on his coat. "I shouldn't have used the spare key when you weren't home," he said. "No, I won't do it again." "Thank you." He opened the door, then turned back. "I love you," he said. "I love you too." He waited. I knew what he wanted. Instant warmth. A sign that the apology had restored access to the house, the table, and the version of me who would never surprise him. I kissed his cheek. "I need time," I said. His disappointment showed, but he nodded. "When can I call?" "Tomorrow." "Even if nothing is wrong, especially if nothing is wrong." He walked down the porch steps. I watched until his car reached the end of the street. Then I went into the living room and sat where he had been sitting. His paper cup remained on the table. For once, he had left something behind that I did not have to carry for him. Erin called Monday evening at 7:12. "What's wrong?" I asked. "Nothing." "Are you sure?" I checked. I sat down at the dining table. "All right." There was a pause. "Now what?" he asked. "You called me. You said I should call when nothing was wrong." "I did. You didn't provide a format. Tell me something." "About what?" "Anything you are not asking me to repair," he thought. The wrong towels arrived at Lena's office. I heard. She made the supplier take back all 800. Good. The correct shade is called Alpine Mist. That isn't a color. I said the same thing. What did Lena say? That my opinion was not required. Smart woman? Another pause came, but this one was easier. Erin told me he had seen a man attempt to carry a desk chair onto an elevator without turning it sideways. I told him Carl had sung the final chorus in the wrong key and finished with such confidence that Margaret questioned the piano. We talked for 14 minutes. Before hanging up, he said, "I didn't need anything. You needed to tell me about a chair. That's different." "It is." He called again 3 days later. The following week, he forgot. I noticed. I did not call to remind him to call me. Then on Saturday morning, my phone rang while I was cleaning the bathroom. "Nothing is wrong," he said when I answered. "You should put that on a greeting card. I'm at the grocery store. Do you need anything?" That is dangerously close to being useful. I can hang up. "I need milk." "What kind?" "The kind I always buy." There was silence. "You don't know, do you?" I asked. "I'm standing in front of 40 kinds. 2%. Why do we have 40 kinds of milk? To give retired people somewhere to go." He brought the milk that afternoon. He also brought the mustard he liked. For emergencies, he said, putting it in my refrigerator. You created the emergency. I solved it. He did not stay for dinner. I did not offer. The new shape of our relationship formed through moments so ordinary I sometimes missed them. Erin began knocking even when he knew the door was unlocked. He called before coming. When he opened my refrigerator, he asked first, which was so unnatural that I finally told him he could stop. "You have reasonable refrigerator privileges," I said. "Can I get that in writing?" "No." He remembered Lena's mother's birthday without help. He missed an appointment with his dentist and did not mention it until after he had rescheduled it himself. When he and Lena disagreed about replacing their dining table, neither of them called me. I found out because the new table arrived and blocked half their kitchen. "You bought a table for a larger house," I said. "It looked smaller online," Erin replied. "Everything does." Lena ran her hand over the polished surface. "We discussed it privately," she said. "You sound proud. We use several techniques." Erin pointed toward the table. "This is what happens when you don't mediate. I'm sure the furniture store thanks me. They invited me for dinner that night." Erin cooked soup. Lena made bread from a tube and burned the bottom. Nobody asked me to rescue anything. I sat at their oversized table and let them serve me. The first few dinners felt formal. Erin pulled out my chair. Lena asked whether the temperature was comfortable. They behaved as if I were a visiting diplomat capable of ending trade negotiations over insufficient salt. "Please stop monitoring my face," I said. "I'm not," Erin replied. "You've looked at me after every bite. The soup is new. It's soup, not a medical trial." He relaxed by degrees. So did I. We did not restore weekly Sunday dinner. Some Sundays, I sang at an afternoon rehearsal or went for pie afterward. One Sunday, I stayed home and wished I had invited Aaron. I nearly turned that loneliness into a principle. Instead, I called him. "Nothing is wrong," I said when he answered. "Are you sure?" I checked. We had dinner the following Thursday. Lorraine recruited me for a Tuesday morning shift at a community food pantry run from the church basement. My job was supposed to be checking expiration dates and arranging canned goods. Within an hour, I had reorganized the intake table, labeled 3 shelves, and shown another volunteer a faster way to record donations. "You've been here 48 minutes, Lorraine said. The system was inefficient. The system was peaceful. It can be both." "No, Ruth. That's how you end up supervising beans." I forced myself to return to the expiration dates. At the end of the shift, a volunteer named George asked whether I would come back the following week. "Did Lorraine tell you to ask me?" "No." "Are you sure? She did mention you're suspicious of kindness." "That sounds like her." I went back. The work gave Tuesday mornings a shape, but I did not take home the pantry schedule, memorize everyone's dietary restrictions, or offer to cover every empty shift. When Lorraine called one Monday night and said George was sick, I told her I already had plans. My plan was to read a book. I felt guilty for 20 minutes. Then I read it. Celia stayed in Aaron's life. Their relationship did not become the clean reunion he had imagined. Sometimes she answered questions openly. Sometimes she said she was not ready. Once, after he pushed too hard about a year she could barely discuss, they went 2 weeks without speaking. Aaron told me they had argued. He did not ask me what to say. "How do you feel?" I asked. "Angry." "Anything else?" "Angry is doing a lot of work right now." "Fair." A few days later, he told me they had spoken again. Celia and I exchanged occasional messages. She sent photographs of the recovering begonia. I responded with cautious praise. "It looks less doomed," I wrote. "That's practically affection from you," she answered. When she visited, we met for lunch. We discussed Daniel, plants, retirement, and the terrible mystery novel she had finished by reading the final page first. We did not discuss every detail of Aaron. We did not become sisters, rivals, or the two halves of a repaired family picture. We became 2 women who could sit at the same table without requiring one of us to disappear. Aaron eventually invited both of us to dinner again. This time, he asked rather than announced. He chose his house, warned us the table was too large, and made no speech. Celia arrived with wine. I brought nothing. "You didn't bring food?" Aaron asked at the door. "You invited me to dinner." "I know. I'm adjusting." During the meal, Celia described the argument she and Aaron had over how often they should speak. Aaron corrected one detail. She corrected his correction. Lena poured more wine. Nobody looked at me to settle it. Later, while clearing plates, Aaron said, "Mom, can you hand me that?" Both Celia and I reached for the same serving spoon. The room went still. Aaron's face reddened. "I meant Celia," he said. The old pain moved through me. It was smaller than before, but not gone. Celia handed him the spoon. "You have 2 nouns available," she said. "I know. Names are also allowed," Lena added. "I'm aware of language. Recent evidence has been mixed," I said. Aaron looked at me. "Are you all right?" The question was not defensive. He did not tell me I had misunderstood or ask me to make the moment easier for Celia. "I will be," I said. Celia touched my wrist beneath the table, then removed her hand. No performance, no apology large enough to require mine. A few minutes later, Aaron asked me for the bread by saying, "Ruth." The name did not wound me. It was simply my name. Repair was not a straight road. Sometimes Aaron overcorrected, calling me Mom 3 times in one conversation, until I asked whether he had forgotten who I was. Sometimes I offered help and then resented him for accepting. I had to learn to say no before anger made the answer sharp. Once, when he called because he and Lena had argued about holiday plans, I listened for 10 minutes before realizing he was waiting for advice. "What do you want from me?" I asked. "I don't know. Do you want me to listen or do you want me to tell you what to do?" "Listen, then continue." He did. It was not easy for either of us. That was how I knew it was different. My first retirement anniversary arrived without balloons. The laboratory invited me to lunch. Erica had moved the filing cabinet again. Ben had replaced the specimen cup labeled Expectations with a larger one. Things got worse, he explained. Dr. Bhandari presented me with a new photograph of the night crew. I was not in the center because I was not in it at all. The absence hurt. It also felt correct. I took the photograph home and placed it beside the one from my retirement. The staff had changed. 2 technicians I did not know stood near Erica. Ben had stopped making rabbit ears. My life had changed too. I still missed Daniel. I still sometimes woke expecting the hospital to call. I still caught myself buying 6 carrots. But the dining table no longer waited for one fixed version of my family. Choir folders landed there. Pantry schedules did not. Lorraine's purse occupied Aaron's old chair whenever she came for coffee, and Aaron complained about it when he visited. "She puts it there on purpose," he said. "She says the chair has good energy, it has upholstery. Take it up with her." I'm afraid of her. Healthy. In early summer, Aaron called and asked if he and Lena could cook dinner at my house. "Why my house? Your kitchen is bigger, your table is larger, your kitchen and our table should marry. Who is cooking?" "I am." "Then yes." He arrived carrying groceries in reusable bags. Lena brought wine and the blue-lidded casserole dish, which had completed so many trips between our homes that none of us remembered what was inside it. "I think it contains lasagna," she said. "From when?" I asked. "Time is a social construct. Food poisoning is not." We opened it. It contained 3 serving spoons and a pot holder. "I've been looking for that pot holder," Aaron said. "In the casserole dish." I didn't say I looked well. He made rosemary chicken. The skin browned evenly. The potatoes had the correct amount of salt. He checked the temperature without putting the thermometer against the bone. I remained at the table with Lena while he worked. "You can help if you want," he called from the kitchen. "I don't. I was trying to include you. I feel included." Lena smiled into her wine glass. Aaron opened and closed several cabinets. "What are you looking for?" I asked. "The large white serving bowl." "Which one?" "The one with the blue rim." "You don't need that one." "I have potatoes. The green bowl is better." "The green bowl looks like a hat. That's why it was on sale." Another cabinet opened. Then Aaron leaned around the kitchen doorway, holding a wooden spoon. "Mom, where do you keep the serving bowl?" The word came without care or fear. He did not pause before it. He did not look toward anyone to measure its effect. I knew which bowl he meant. I knew exactly where it was. For most of my life, knowing had meant standing up. "Top drawer beside the stove," I said. He looked. "It's not there. Second drawer. You said top. I've been retired. Things move." He found the bowl and held it up. "This one? That's the one." Aaron carried it to the counter and spooned in the potatoes. Lena refilled my wine glass. The kitchen smelled like rosemary and butter. I stayed in my chair while my son finished making dinner for me.